Bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right, what up, what up? Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Today's Monday, April 11th. 101 days into the new year, 263 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. It's Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet, I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Got a storm warning going down here in Los Angeles County. Just got the alerts on the cell phones. I don't know if it's going to affect us here, but I got to say, the cloud seeding operation here in Burbank seems to be successful. All right. Brand new week here on Fade to Black. Had one day off. Here we are. Great week lined up. Tonight, special guest Steve Murillo joins us once again. Lots to talk about. Tomorrow night, Dr. Stephen Greer will be back with us. And then on Wednesday, very special show, Oli Damagard is going to be here live from Spain. We're going to be discussing false flags, assassinations, New World Order, all that darkness. Oli Damagard, one of the best. For the first time, too, actually, on Fade to Black. Looking forward to that. Call-in number tonight is 323-825-5045. If you'd like to speak to myself or Steve, we will do that. And then don't forget, Thursday, it's Fader Night. And John Rappaport in the No More Fake Newsroom. Open lines all night long. Great week lined up here on the show. Follows tonight on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do. Pop things along in real time, in TweetDeck. It's the best way to do it. Truly interactive. Somebody tweeted the other night that we should do live video cams. And I don't know if they were referring to Coast or to Fade to Black. It just kind of blew by me. Then I got an email about it. So I don't know if it was the same person or not or whatever. And we are set up to do live video. And we did for a while here in the studio. The reason why we stopped doing it was because the video is delayed, okay? And the show, so the audio and the video didn't line up. So if somebody wanted to watch the video and listen to the show, it would be out of sync. Or vice versa, if they would just listen to or watch the video, which has fine audio, it's the same audio stream that we send out, it's just out of sync. Then you're out of sync with the phone calls. You're out of sync with the guests. You're out of sync with Twitter because you're 30, 45 seconds behind everybody else. And so we stopped doing it. And that's why. But we are set up to do it. Maybe if we could figure out the technical things to make it real and make it happen, we'll visit it again. We're set up totally multiple cameras, and it's easy to do. It's just a couple of clicks. It's just out of sync. If there's a way to get it all in sync in real time, we would do it. Okay, now, let's see, where am I at? Facebook. Over on Facebook, if you go to our Jimmy Church Radio, the Facebook page, 3 really cool stories are posted over there today. And go and check those out. I'll be talking about those in just a bit. You can email throughout the show, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. I get to as many of them as I can. Maybe I'll even read it on the air. All right, let's go. Yes. Life Change Tea got me through this past week, I got to tell you. And starting tomorrow, and this is according to Rita, we start another super cleanse. So that kicks off tomorrow for the next 3 days. Life Change Tea. And right now, if you want, you can cleanse right along with me. You can go to Life Change Tea, go to gettothetea.com at Jimmy Church Radio. Click on the link. You can get 2 months of super strength tea and get a bottle of Moringa for $5 and free shipping. Just use Jimmy when you order, JIMMY. Simple enough. All right. Let's that's what you do with shows like this. Support the show, support yourself, and you do that by supporting our sponsors. And that's how it works. It just works that way. All right. Man, let's see. Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks from tomorrow, next day, we will be up in San Francisco at the New Living Expo, April 29th through May 1st, San Mateo, California. Stephen Greer, who's going to be with us tomorrow night, will be up there. Nasim Haramain's going to be up there. Greg Braden, Scott Wolter, who was with us last week. Catherine Woodward-Thomas, Dr. Eben Alexander, Karen Newell, Mike Barra, Laura Eisenhower, Daniel Brinkley, Tricia McCannon. It's going to be a great weekend up there. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Just go and click on it. And it's just south of the San Francisco airport in San Mateo, right on the bay. Beautiful area. We're going to be up there for 3 straight days, so come and hang out with us. And with that, tonight we have Steve Murillo with us, and he is going to be at Contact in the Desert, June 3rd through the 6th. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit tonight. And again, all the links for Contact in the Desert are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Lodging, facilities, tickets, and everything. Contactinthedesert.com. Just if you can't remember that, the links are over on the website. And Contact in the Desert, I think, 50 speakers, 40, 50. Graham Hancock, Robert Bivall, Giorgio Wilcock, Eric Von Daniken. George Norrie is, it's his birthday, so there's going to be a special birthday celebration. Jim Mars, David Hatcher Childress is coming out for this. Danny Sheehan. The list is really, really long. Contact in the Desert. And this will be our 3rd straight year doing CITD. And you really, really, really want to come up and hang out. All of the Fadernauts are going to be there. And we definitely let our hair down. It's a great event. All right, let's get the show cracking. Today, Jeremy Clarkson is 56. Yeah, I like Jeremy. He's a little out of control, but Clarkson and Richard Hammond and James May, they have a new show, supposedly on Amazon. I don't even know what that means. Yeah, I know. Okay, but it still doesn't have a name. So, but it's the same 3 guys. They should just call it Top Gear in America and get sued. But there you go, Jeremy Clarkson, 56. I was watching a video, a recent 2-day-old video of Jeremy today. I got to tell you, for 56, Jeremy, you need to go to getthetea.com, man. You need to do something. You're looking a little weathered, my brother. I love you to death, but you're looking a little weathered. Tonight, Steve Murillo is here. He's going to be here in a few short minutes. Tomorrow night, Stephen Greer. And on Wednesday, Ole Damagard. On this day in history, 1970, Apollo 13 launched to the moon. Shortly thereafter, we got those famous words from James Lovell. Houston, we have a problem. On this day in 1970. Fader fact. YouTube, this is a crazy fader fact. YouTube is the world's second largest search engine, right after Google. It's bigger than Bing, Yahoo, and Ask combined. So that means Google has the top 2 search engines. Interesting, isn't it? Talk about net domination. My goodness. All right, man, I got to drink some more of this kicking horse from Dennis. Man, that's the most amazing coffee in the history of the world. All right. Whatever happened, we've been talking about Kyle Odum a lot lately. We're going to discuss Kyle a little bit later on in the show, of course, with Steve Murillo. But, that's the subject. And it's an interesting one, and the manifesto is interesting. But whatever happened to Bronton? Remember Bronton? I'm gonna look over at Twitter right now. Bronton, Branton. Who remembers Bronton? And if you remember Bronton, then I will recognize you as somebody that has done a lot of research, somebody that has read, somebody that has been all over ufology and the subjects around that for a long time. So who remembers Bronton? All right, I'm going to watch Twitter right now. I'm going to find out. Let's see who does it first. And don't Google Bronton. That doesn't count. All right? But Bronton, if you've never heard of him, tonight is the night you are going to learn something. You're going to go on a little journey tonight. I don't know what Bronton. Well, I'll get to that in a second before I let my mind swing out a little bit too far. Nope, don't know him. That's from Myra. Waldo says nope. Well, okay. So, all right. That's 3. First name Laird. No. Oh, that was good. Ryan, that was funny. Bronton, Branton. Now, I don't know when his real name apparently is Teach Me Teacher. You got it. You guys get ready. Get ready, because this has to do with Kyle Odum, too. Bronton's real name is Bruce Allen Walton, hence the acronym, synonym, right? Pseudonym. Bruce Allen Walton. Get it? Bronton. I don't know when he changed his name, but I do know that he did it out of fear for his life, right? He wrote about it, and he wrote about it a lot. There's a lot out there to read. Bronton had learned certain details about an alien-human conspiracy that predated all of our conventional views of human history. And although most have never heard his name, and I get that, I do. Most good researchers today have read his stuff. And he did it before anyone else. Well, for the most part, he did. And I'm talking about underground bases. I'm talking about Dulce. I'm talking about alien, reptilian infestation into monarchies and political systems. And it was a vision of the future, but I'm going to get to that in a second. His website, which is still live today, is called Kingdom of Brantonia. Kingdom of Brantonia. It's still up. It's still up, and it's 1995 scrolling, link-covered HTML glory. And it's amazing. Check it out. All right, somebody in real time. Yeah, Bronton files come to mind. Very good, Gabriel. Is this. Just look up Bronton, and you will go to, oh, man, what was the name of his web service? I'll think of it here in a second. But you'll see his website. Click on it. It's bright red. You'll see a Kingdom of Brantonia. It is excellent reading. You need to spend some time there. It's amazing. I spent way too much time back in the day on that site. I would surf around looking for any news about him. And at one point, there were lots of little things that were fresh all the time around the web. They were popping up. And it was really good, really amazing reading. And a lot of it is still archived, and you can still go out there and find it. And he wrote, this is the other cool thing about Bronton. He wrote 5 books. All of them are available online for free. My memory says they always have been. They always were. He wasn't into the money. He wasn't selling things or anything like that. But he was prolific, and he wrote a lot. One of his books is called The Mojave Desert's Mysterious Secrets. And that, yeah, Angel Fire. Good move there, Waldo. That's what I'm talking about. I don't even know Angel Fire was still around. Exactly. All right. But the website is still live. You can go do it. Okay. Now, then he wrote another book, and you can find it out there. It's called The Dulce Wars, Underground Alien Bases and the Battle for Planet Earth. It's a page-turner. It's the real deal. Another book of his, The Omega Files, Secret Nazi UFO Bases Revealed. Written back in the day, too. Another book, Reality of the Serpent Race and the Subterranean Origin of UFOs. Got another piece out there called The Underground Alien Biolab at Dulce. Okay? Now, you can go and read all of that. And I suggest that you all do. And I know you guys. You're going to do just that. But if you need a little kick in the pants, a little kick start, a little shove over the cliff, follow me. Follow me. Bronton said a bunch of stuff, and one of the many points that he made, he said that he had been a sleeper for the CIA and that he stumbled on some information that he wasn't supposed to know. He was supposedly given an alternative personality which was programmed to serve his CIA Black Projects handlers and the Bavarian Grey Collective. Listen to me. In this alternate or double life, which I'm having right now, he had access to several underground bases and apparently over the course of time encountered several alien groups as well. It's even said that he had several alien implants placed all over his body, not just one. He went on to say, this is incredible, that he is the father of a number of hybrid children conceived when he mated with female reptilian shape-shifting aliens. He believed his hybrid children had decided to switch sides and join him in resisting the Luciferian New World Order. His words. Now, check this out. This is a direct quote from Bronton. Quote, as you are probably aware, as a whole, these reptilian hybrids often lead a double life involving dual personalities. One which leads a normal life in the outer world, and one that is deeply involved with the underground alien society on a nocturnal basis. This is especially true with cocooned, hosted individuals and hybrids abductees. I believe that I am one such hybrid. This is written years ago. Another item that can be found on the internet, if you search for it, and you should, somebody should do this right now and get this link posted up in Twitter. He wrote David Icke, 2007. And you can find this, I think it was somewhere around 2007, might be a little earlier. You can find this on the web. You can find it. It's a long letter, but it's out there. In that letter, he says that his genealogical line of himself and his family intersects with that of the British royal family, and that the Mormon Church or Latter-day Saints serves as a cover for many of the old reptilian bloodlines. He conjectures that this may be why the Mormons prefer large families, in order to breed out the normal human genetic lines and replace them with reptilian hybrid genes. There are many cases of Mormon hybrid abductees who suffer from multiple personality disorder, and they are under tremendous pressure from the church, especially in Utah. They are told not to discuss their abduction experiences. That's in a letter to David Icke. He goes on to say in the letter, he says, underneath most major cities, particularly in the USA, there exist subterranean counterpart cities controlled by the Masonic hybrid alien elite. Often, surface, subsurface terminals exist beneath Masonic lodges, police stations, airports, and federal buildings. Some of the major population centers were deliberately established by the Masonic hybrid elite of the old and new worlds to afford easy access to already existing underground installations, some of which are thousands of years old. What happened to Bronton? Nobody has heard from him in years. Years. Just dropped out. Website is still live. I find that interesting. His books are still online. He has been now whether and Phil Schneider comes to mind, and Dulcie and everything else that comes into play here. That whole cast of characters, Richard Doty. The research that has gone into underground bases, not only here in the United States, but around the world, and the research that is by multiple researchers. The question is this: was Bronton's information, alleged information, was his information his own? And it predated so many other researchers out there that it makes you wonder that the other researchers out there were stumbling on the same information independent of Bronton. And that's what's important to understand here. Nobody's heard from him in years. Now, the last story circulating about Bronton, and again, this is around the web. It's out there. It's not like from one source. But the last story circulating was that he had been in a roadside accident, that he was riding his bike not far from where he lived, cruising down the road, and someone in a dark car, tinted out windows, the whole drill, Men in Black, I guess, New World Order maybe, hit him, knocked him off the road. He was injured, broken limbs, taken out of the play. There's that. And then, apparently, again, these are just stories that are out there, that he is now in prison today. And that's why we haven't heard from him. A search into the prison records shows a couple of things. Nothing verified. Don't know what the charges were, anything like that. But somebody's keeping his website alive, and somebody is keeping his message out there alive if you can go and find it. One of them is Timothy Beckley, by the way. Should get Timothy on the show. Haven't talked to him in a while. And get him to come on and talk about Bronton. I think he used to be in direct contact with him. And he might, I'm not too sure, but he's, I know that he used to publish his books. I'm going to get Beckley on the show. But what's trippy about all of this is that until we hear from him again, we still have the Kingdom of Brantonia, that website, and now Kyle Odum. Think about what I am saying. Very similar stories. Yeah. Bronton. Check him out. Kingdom of Brantonia. Did you guys get, I didn't even see, I know you guys did Angel Fire. Did you guys get his links up? If you haven't got his links up, who is this? Jack, is that supposed to be Bronton? Is that him? Verify. I've never seen that picture. That's why. That's why I love you guys. You guys are good. All right. Really quick. Let's see. I wanted to do this because this is pretty important news. Because Kepler is back after a short period of uncertainty, and this happened over the weekend, and I kind of freaked out. I thought we lost Kepler. I thought it was over. Kind of hard to do from whatever it is, 75 million miles or wherever Kepler is right now. The communications with Kepler have been resumed, but they went down. And what had happened was Kepler went into emergency mode. And sometime between April 4th and April 7th, its onboard systems freaked out. The first time in its 7-year history that this has happened. Now, it takes 13 minutes for a back and forth communication with Kepler, right? 13 minutes for it to say something, we respond, and it gets back to Kepler. And all of that stopped, and they somehow got it fired back up, but it went into emergency mode. The weird thing is, two weird things. One, first time it ever happened, they still don't know what forced the emergency mode shutdown. Second important thing here that I find strange, when it goes into emergency mode, believe it or not, it drains more of its power than when it's in regular operation mode. I don't understand that. Third thing is that it was getting ready to make the move to point towards the inner core of our galaxy and start searching for alien planets there. And that was the big move. And everything looked good and looked solid. When they were getting ready to make the move, Kepler stopped talking to us. But it's back. We got Kepler. We're going into the inner core of the galaxy. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Steve Murillo is with us. Tomorrow night, Dr. Stephen Greer. And then on Wednesday, Oli Damagard, live from Spain. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. When I come back after this short break, we'll be joined by Steve Murillo. Be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National tax experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, Give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Kletsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fader-Knots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris.
What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. The beginning of a brand new week. Tonight, Steve Murillo is with us. Tomorrow night, Dr. Stephen Greer. Wednesday, Oli Damagard, live from Spain. It's going to be a great week. Then, of course, Thursday night, Fader night, open lines all night long. And John Rappaport and his No More Fake News Room. Steve Murillo attended the United States Naval Academy, where he received his Bachelor of Science degree in Systems Engineering in 1982. He was commissioned an officer in the Marine Corps, attended flight school, and served 7 years of active duty as a jet pilot. That's what I'm talking about. After the Marine Corps, he went on to TRW, where he became the power subsystem engineer for a satellite program known as the TDRSS, Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System Flight 7. In 2001, his world changed. He had his first UFO sighting right there in Marina del Rey. A UFO sighting, and he filed that report with MUFON. A day later, MUFON's L.A. Director of Field Investigations, Bill Casey, gave him a call. Steve was invited to a MUFON L.A. meeting, and that was the beginning of Steve's career with MUFON. About a year later, Steve was elected to replace the outgoing state section director, Don Waldrop. And then Steve held that position for 13 years, not only conducting field investigations, but they had those famous monthly meetings right here in the Valley. Steve now heads up UPARS LA, the UFO and Paranormal Research Society, right here in Los Angeles. He and his group investigates all things UFO and paranormal and have monthly meetings right here in Studio City, California. I'd like to welcome back to Fade to Black my good friend, Steve Murillo. Steve, good evening.
Hey, Jimmy, how are you, man?
It's all good, Steve, and it's always great to hear your voice.
You too. Good to hear you. Good to hear your voice. What is new with you?
Man, nothing new over here, man. You live the life, okay? We all want to be Steve Murillo.
Yeah.
fighter pilot, UFO investigator. What what can be better, man?
I don't know, hang gliding in Silmar. Yeah. That's always good.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. We all want to be Steve, and trust me, you're never going to get me up there. I'll watch you jump off the cliff, but not me, man. I'm not hang gliding.
You know what? No, I bet you if you went up there and watched and saw how it all works, I bet you I could get you into one of those things with an instructor. I know you'd do it.
Everybody's got their price. I suppose if there was some cash involved. Steve, when I was a kid down in Panama, there was one of the locks, the Miraflores locks, was not far from where we lived, out in the middle of the jungle, down there in a little town called Cocally. And I would get on my 10-speed bike and I would ride over to the Miraflores locks and sit there on this big hill all day watching, the ships come through, right? It was just so the enormity of the engineering that is involved with something like that will just blow your mind. I would just sit there and watch. Well, one day I'm sitting up on this hill, and this guy pulls up in a pickup truck, and this is 1977, right? The dawn of hang gliding. Okay. And this guy pulls a hang glider off of his truck, and I'm sitting there with my 10-speed. I'm kind of checking him out. He's by himself. And he unfolds this thing, and I'm just kind of curious, and it's just him and I on this hill, and it's like I don't know, maybe a quarter of a mile high, pretty steep cliff, right? And he unfolds this thing. It's, the ones that look like a V, right?
Triangle.
A triangle, right. And he takes one look at me, takes off running, and jumps off the cliff. And this thing goes straight down into the side of the cliff, nose first, digs in, and I watched his face do a face plant right into the dirt. And and he gets up, right, and I run down the hill, and I go up to him, and he looks at me. His nose is bloody. I think he's missing a couple of teeth. He's got blood running down his chin. And he looks at me and he goes, am I all right? And I was like, dude.
He was lucky to be alive, man. Those things were, we lost so many hang glider pilots in the 70s, if you survived that as a hang glider pilot, if you survived that period of time, you are a very, very good pilot now because, man, it was dangerous and crazy. And, the things were not that airworthy. The Regala wing was designed to be a recovery vehicle for inert objects like boxes. NASA designed this thing to recover things from space. Or that's what they picked it up for.
Right.
But, hang glider pilots got their hands on the design because it's very easy to build. But the problem with those things, once they went nose down, you could not recover. Once you went past a certain point, they were inherently unstable, so you were just going in. Nowadays, when a hang glider noses down, it pretty much wants to right itself. It picks up speed and wants to come out of the dive. So it's a little safer these days.
Yeah, that's your story. You just stick to it, okay? And
I'll stick to it. Yeah. It's just that's what I tell my wife.
Yeah,
it's all good.
He came back up, wiped the blood away, gets back up on the hill. I got to give him credit, man. I mean, he cheated death, right? So he gets back up on the hill, and he took a second jump, and he flew out and landed. It lasted like 10 seconds, He just and landed down at the bottom of the hill.
He picked himself up and launched again.
Yes, he did, man.
Jeez.
Pick the dirt. Yeah, pick the dirt out of the nose of the triangle.
Of the glider.
Yeah, and jumped again.
Oh my God.
But no, that right there, I just knew it's just not for me, man. But
that explains it. Okay, I get it.
Now, a couple of things. First off, we have a semi-announcement that we're going to do right now, and I'll warm it up, and then I'm going to hand it off to you. But I'm going to announce this now to the Fadernauts. We are planning a trip to Area 51. And this is Steve and Wolf and Alex over at UPARS have got some money together from UPARS, and they want to rent an RV and head out to Area 51. invite the Fadernauts, go out, spend the weekend, and try to get arrested. That's the goal. And broadcast Fade to Black live from Area 51. Steve, how did you put all of this together?
Hey, Wolf and I were just talking about it today. You know, we've got an excellent YouTube channel. If you just search UPARS, UPARS, you'll find us and subscribe. But we've had 1 million views and 500 subscribers. And so that's throwing a little money in the coffers. So it's enough to, the whole purpose of this was to create some money so that we could do things like this, right? Go out and do some research, maybe fund something for Alex. He's going to go wherever and whatever he's into, whatever he's looking at. So that was the deal. And so we've got a little bit of money there, and we thought it would be a cool thing. And how cool would it be for you to transmit from, Area 51 and, transmit the show? What we were thinking, see, Wolf was one of the original guys who was going out to Area 51 before anybody knew about it. It was just a group of guys who knew about it among themselves and kept it real quiet. And they were like ham operators and, just kind of tech geeks, but they kept it to themselves. They found out, and it was back in the days of Lazar and everything, when the things are going up in the sky and they're seeing all these strange objects. And so Wolf, at that time, he was a pioneer. He knew where all the spots were. You could get much closer to the base. You could actually see it, from Freedom Ridge. And Freedom Ridge was more of a mountain than a ridge or a hill. It was like a hike to get up there. So he's telling us all about this. But he used to lead, documentary groups or documentary teams up there to do film. He led a big Japanese contingent came down. He led them up and around Area 51. So he knows his way around. He knows all the frequencies, at least he used to, that they monkey around on. And I was out there once with him, and it was a really interesting night. We didn't have any sightings that night, but I had some weird flyovers of my car as I was leaving, like a jet buzzed me, and it was like in the middle of nowhere, kind of, if you know that area, it's just in the middle of nowhere. This jet buzzes me like real low, maybe about 100 foot off the deck, and boom, the whole truck shakes. He flips it around, comes over and does another one. I think he was just showing off, but it was pretty cool. I think that was an F-15 actually that flew by.
There was, I don't know if you saw this, Steve, but last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, this video surfaced of this Japanese family getting arrested up at Area 51. Have you seen this video?
No.
It's crazy. No. It's crazy. So it's two groups of tourists, right? And one guy's video, they don't know each other, right? But they're there at they went up the Black Mailbox Road, Groom Lake Road, right, and went as far as the signs. And the guy's sitting there videotaping the signs, and the Japanese family jumps in the car and takes off, man. Bolts past the side. And right as they crest, going up this hill, the camo dudes show up right at the top of the hill. Wop, bop, 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 right? Jump out, machine guns, the whole thing. They empty the car. And they get out, and it's like three, I'm going to guess here and say young teenage Japanese girls. I'm going to 12, 13 years old. And mom and dad, right?
Oh, no. What?
Yeah,
so dad, just decided to go crazy about this, and hit the gas.
Oh, man. If that would have been Rita and me, oh, man, I'd still be hearing about it. So anyway, but listen, check this out. Steve, check this out.
I'm sorry, man, go ahead.
They make everybody get out, hands up, and back up to the camo dudes, felony stop style, up the hill in the dirt road with their hands raised. And you can tell, man, it's like a 13-year-old little Japanese girl with her hands raised. They got dad up on top of the hill. I think they got him on his knees with his hands locked behind his head. And it's a crazy video, man. Crazy.
I did not see that.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it just got posted.
It's funny, but in the Japanese culture or in Japan, ufology is way more out in the open, and people follow it. Like, you know, I'm into karate, right?
Yes.
And when the Japanese come over here, they've seen the shows and stuff, and they pay attention. Like, they know me. Like, they know my face. And they'll, like, come up and then tell a story, you know, in Japanese, and then somebody translates about something they saw. But they're much more open about it on the news. Like, it's common to have it and they don't poo-poo it. You know, they don't make fun of it. They'll have a sighting, and then they'll put it on the news, and they'll talk about it, but it won't be, you know, they won't play the stupid, you know, music and all that. They don't make any fun of it. They just treat it as a real thing. So it's, you know, it's a respected topic there to say, and so probably, you know, that's why these tour buses are out there at Area 51. You know, it's like the real deal. It's where it all started. And I don't know the name of that documentary that Wolf led in Japan, but yeah, I guess they're coming back, you know, to see if it's still there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it was like Nippon Television or something, and I do remember that. And I think Noria Hayakawa was there, and he was involved with it. And that's interesting that you bring that up, because the Japanese, American television didn't do anything about it. You know, they weren't on top of it. I mean, I guess you did have George Knapp and what was going on in Las Vegas, but that wasn't on a national level. And the Japanese, very, very early on, were all over that. And also with Bob Lazar, too, as well. It was Japanese television.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. I'm watching this video right now of this family getting arrested, man. It just got posted. I'm serious, man. It is hysterical. That man, you know, that's a family vacation that you'll never forget, no doubt.
Oh yeah, that'll be just their treasure from here on. It'll be framing everything up in their house. So I'm glad they didn't get hurt.
So what do you think we should do? We should all first stop would be the Alien and go have some drinks.
There you go.
You know, and
there you go.
And maybe gather there, maybe gather in Las Vegas and go out in a convoy. But somebody just said, Jimmy, if getting arrested is your idea of fun. And my point is, I'll be a martyr. I'll go down. You know, I'll go down for that. You know, but what I
do it live while you're broadcasting. Yeah. Okay, they're coming up. They're telling me to get on my knees. They're telling me to put my hands above my head, but I can't because I've got this mic. You know,
I'm the guy. I'm the guy to do it, man. I'll Periscope the whole thing. And you know, I think that one of us, fate or not, one of us really needs to go up close and personal with the camo dudes. Let's just see. Let's just go. Let's see how serious
those guys are intimidating. First, it starts off with the signs around there saying they can use deadly force. You know,
of course.
And then these guys sit up and they know you're coming a mile away. They have all kinds of sensors. You know, ground sensors that look like plants, and these have been there since the beginning, that can detect, you know, they're basically ad hoc. It's an ad hoc internet system of sensors, right? And when one goes off, they all start going off and telling the direction and the distance and all that. So they know you're coming a mile away. And they keep moving that fence further and further away from the base. So, and these guys sit up in those Humvees up on a hill, and they see you, and you're seeing them, and they just stare at you until you make a move. And as soon as you do, they're coming down at you, and you know you better run.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll do it. I'll see what.
All right.
You know, at least you know, so I can say, you know, in the future, that I was there and I talked to the guys, you know, as they were handcuffing me, right? Let's just get it all on videotape. I mean, how much could bail be? You know, and what do they do?
A couple million.
You know, what do they do? When they arrest you, do they take you on to Area 51 and throw you in the clink? Or do you go to like the county sheriff?
No idea. I have no idea.
Do they call the local police? Do they call the Rachel, Nevada Sheriff's Department?
Well, you know, if they did, all of those guys have seen stuff. All the people in Rachel have seen things, strange things, so they know, when you go into Rachel, because it's a real small place, you drive through in about 30 seconds.
Right.
And, but everybody that lives there or has grown up there has seen strange things in the sky. So very interesting. So I bet you those guys just turn you loose, say go home.
Back in, I'm going to say 1995, 96, I'm in Vegas on business, and I'm driving around town, and I had it like, I would spend the week in Vegas once a month. I would go out there on business and stay at all the hotels in the Strip, and you get bored. I know it sounds crazy, but after you do that for a few months or a year, it loses its luster, and you're also tired of losing money in the casino.
Right.
So anyway, one night I was like, man, Area 51, I'm going. So I talked to a couple of them. They were like, man, just get on this freeway right here and just go north, and then you need to go to mile marker this, and you got to do that. And I took off, and I drove one night. I did it at night, and I drove for about an hour, and I'm like, man, I'm not even like halfway there. And I turned around and went back. I was by myself. And so,
oh, you're kidding?
Yeah, I know. I didn't go the full route, and I didn't chicken out. It was just getting late, and I had to get up early. So that's as close as I've ever been. Was a failed. I'm not saying I chickened out. I don't want to say that, but it was getting late.
It's creepy out there, man. It is at night, even more so. But just the terrain's all. As you get further and further away from Vegas, and you're going through this little valley, the landscape looks different. It looks kind of, alien. It looks kind of Mars, Everything looks creepy. There's not a lot of trees, just desert, middle of nowhere.
Yeah, Steve, what I want you to do, and one of the things that I love is the way that you tell a story. And I've posted so many pictures of you telling stories because you're so animated with it. And I wish people could sit around and listen to you tell a story. But I want you to share with everybody that incident that night on your roof in the hot tub time machine story. And because that for you at that point in your life, ex fighter pilot, Marines, Naval Academy, TRW, you were a straight and narrow kind of guy, and you really hadn't had anything like this happen before. And that was a game changer for you that night. What happened?
It was. Okay, so I remember it vividly. It was an evening after some hard training, karate training, so we had been fighting. And so I was all beat up and tired after about an hour and a half of fighting, right? So came home, and my house is in Manhattan Beach. It's a 3-story house, and on the roof I had put this hot tub. So it's about 9:30 at night, maybe a little bit before 9. It was about 9:25 actually, because I'm remembering the times because I made the report, filed the report. So my wife was waiting for me when I came home. She knew I'd be tired and beat up, and so we were both going to go in the hot tub. So we go up, and she hands me my glass of wine. I get in the hot tub. She's my wife, Pat. She's real sweet. She hands me my wine. I'm in the hot tub looking at the ocean. And then she goes, oh, I forgot mine. So she goes downstairs to get her wine, and I'm sitting there staring at the ocean. Maybe there's a little bit of a moon. I don't quite remember that. But I'm looking at the ocean, and I see these seagulls coming at me, right? I'm looking at these things on the horizon, these seagulls, and I'm thinking, here comes some seagulls. And they're coming right at me, and I'm thinking, why is somebody shining a spotlight on seagulls? Because they were so bright, it looked like somebody. I just pictured in my head. I was trying to make up a story that made sense, right? My mind said somebody must be shining a spotlight on these seagulls, right? They're coming at me, and I'm like, they're low to the horizon, so they must have been low altitude. And then they're flying silently over my head, and it's a group of 5. So one is in lead, and then there's 2 off each side, and then kind of an echelon or a chevron shape. And each one looks like a 3-pronged throwing star, okay, like those ninja throwing stars. That's what each one looked like. Each one was lit, meaning the whole thing was light. They didn't have little lights on them. They were each thing was pure light. And the light itself was very coherent, just very pure light. It was like I don't know how to describe it. Like it had some sort of mass to the light. I don't know how to describe it other than that. Did not put off any kind of an umbra. And these things flew silently from the west to the east over my head. And I'm following over my head thinking, those aren't seagulls, right? And my mind is trying to race and figure out what these things are. They go over my head, and I'm following them now with my head. I'm turning around. They're flying due east, and then three of them, the lead and two of them, just split off to the left, and they literally slid across the sky. Unlike an aircraft that has to turn, it has to bank and then turn.
Right. So it was like
these things.
They looked like the Mercedes logo, but with fat stars on them. Fat
like the Mercedes logo, but make it fatter. Something like that.
And were they spinning, or were they in one?
No, but they weren't spinning at all. They weren't. Nope. They were just like a jet would be. Okay, like an aircraft would be, just flying along in that formation, not spinning. And they're, and then these things slide across the sky. They get I would guess about a mile separation in second, like less than a second actually. And they're going along, and the two that were left behind maybe waited a couple seconds more, and then they just slid across the sky right back into formation, like instantaneously, like just across the sky, miles across the sky in like less than a second. And that maneuver is kind of what blew my head up. It blew my mind. I was like, what the hell was that? And I literally jumped out of the hot tub, dripping wet, running down the stairs, hollering at Pat, I just saw a UFO, blah, blah, blah. And I was all excited. I jumped on the computer downstairs, and at that time we had Netscape. Remember Netscape?
Barely,
and
yes.
So I used Netscape, right? And I searched UFOs, and the first thing that I hit was MUFON LA, right? File a report. Oh, that's what I got to do. I got to file a report. So I jumped onto their form, and I filed a report. Typed as much as I could. Then I called LAX. Oh, before I filed the report, I called LA Tower to see if they had seen anything, because they're, from Manhattan Beach, LAX is just maybe about maybe 2 miles away or something, going north. Yeah, very close. And did approach have anything? Did ground have anything? No, nobody saw anything. Tower didn't see anything. And so I filed this report, and a couple of days later, Bill Casey called me. He was the director of field investigations for MUFON LA at the time. So he called me up and interviewed me for maybe a half hour, and and at the end of it, he goes, "Well, that's one of the best sightings I've heard in a long time. You had a real sighting." I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, and we're meeting like Tuesday if you want to come to one of our meetings." And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to, of course." So I drove out to Studio City and started going to the meetings once a month. I think I maybe did 2 or 3. And then Don Waldrop said, "Hey, you seem really interested in this subject. Why don't you come to a board meeting?" So they invited me to come to a board meeting, and I did. And then that's how it all went. And maybe about a year later, then Don decided he was going to move on to Florida with his wife, and they appointed me to be the new guy. So that's how I ended up with MUFON LA
for 13 years. Yeah. This is Fade to Black. This is Fade to Black. Our guest is Steve Murillo. I've got to click on okay, I'm going to do it this way. All right. Our guest tonight is Steve Murillo, UPARS. And when we come back, the one question that I have to ask Steve is his Marine Corps jet pilot self. What did he think that he just saw? That's the crazy part of this story. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. More with Steve Murillo when we come back. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Why would they do that?
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com. Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
Hey folks, Life Change T here, reminding you that colds and flus suck. Feeling lousy sucks, and allergies really can be annoying. What if you could change that? What if you could drink something that changed the sick and tired scenario? Well, you can change how you feel with a little help from Life Change Tea. Life Change Tea is a drink you make, you control, and you drink. There are 8 organic herbs that blend together and give you what you need to fight the flus and colds of this world. Less sickness is more relief. Life Change Tea can help with high blood pressure, constipation, high cholesterol, and much, much more just by drinking the tea. Read the numerous testimonies at getthetea.com. If you're tired of feeling lousy, order right now at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. If you've heard this commercial more than once and someone's trying to tell you something, it's time to get well. GetTheT.com.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. You can follow me right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Come join the sandbox. Hashtag F2B. We don't bite. It's all good. It's interactive, real time throughout the show. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Steve Murillo attended the United States Naval Academy, and then he went on to flight school, joined the Marine Corps, and served for 7 years as a jet pilot for the Marines. Now, Steve, with that kind of background, and you see these 3-pointed Japanese throwing stars, 5 of them, cruise over your house at low altitude in formation, what does your jet pilot mind say at that moment?
Well, of course, I knew every plane in the inventory. I knew every plane in the Russian inventory at that time. We're trained to, you study them. You know what they look like from the side, from the back, from the, you know what they look like. And these things look nothing like anything I'd ever seen before. They looked like nothing I'd ever seen. So that was number one. Number two, the way they moved. They moved And immediately I didn't get a chance to analyze, scientifically what these things are doing, but I knew immediately these things were inertialess. They were moving as if they had no mass. So they were nothing that, my quick conclusion was it's nothing I've ever seen before, nothing I've ever seen. It was not of this earth, as they say.
Yeah, Steve, what do you mean they moved, as if they had no mass? What does that mean?
And this is kind of common, as I found out over the years, interviewing numerous witnesses. UFOs, true UFOs, move as if they don't as if there's no gravity. Obviously, they're moving through the sky, but they make changes in direction and without changing speed that would squish. Like instantaneous, infinite G. You know what I mean? Like if you're going 2,000 miles an hour in one direction, and then you go 90 degrees and not change speed, at that very point where you change direction, you have infinite acceleration. You would just basically things should blow up. The thing should disintegrate. Anything inside it should die. But what appears to be the case around these objects, whether they're in Manhattan Beach or Brazil or Italy or wherever, these things move as if they have an envelope of gravity around them that does not correspond to the laws of our physics. Do you know what I mean? In other words, they're existing in our time space, but they're not exactly subscribing to those laws of gravity, our laws of gravity. So somehow that's put on hold. Don't ask me how they do that, but that's what they do. And when they did that little demonstration, I think that was the cue that they had to do to wake me up. Here's another common phenomenon when you see a UFO. Oftentimes, not always, but often, the witness somehow later feels like that sighting was for them, or everybody else turned their head. In my case, my wife was made to go downstairs. I'll say that. I'll step out on that limb. She was made to go downstairs to get her wine, so she didn't see it. And I've heard that over and over and over through the different witnesses I've witnessed, that somehow, the sighting was for them. And oftentimes there's like this follow-on information that's quickly downloaded into the brain of whoever the witness is. I think I've told you, I had this one witness. He was drunk out of his mind at a New Year's Eve party in Scotland, because he was a commercial guy. He filmed commercials, made commercials for BBC and whatnot. Anyway, so he's at this castle in Scotland having a grand old time with his wife and friends and all that. So he decides to go out on the balcony in the back of the castle, and he looks up. He's by himself, and he sees this black triangle hovering over his head. He feels like it's connected with him and like it's talking to him, and it's downloading information. Don't ask me what it downloaded, but it was such a profound experience. First of all, he was like he had been blind drunk, and when it left, he was dead sober. His wife came out. She was drunk. She asked him what happened, and he couldn't even explain it. But it caused him to just basically drop his career and decide to film a documentary of ufology. He felt at that moment like it was 100% real, and that humankind had to know the truth. So he dropped everything what he was doing. He left England and came to the United States and started making a documentary on it. So that's how profound the sighting can be. And for me, it was when they did that, they executed that maneuver that I knew couldn't be done by a jet. My mind couldn't categorize that move.
When they flew overhead, and I know you can judge distance and space, how far away, what was the altitude at that point?
See, now looking back on it, I would guess they were something between, I'll say 1,000 foot above me and 3,000 foot, somewhere in there.
Close.
The reason I say that is the rate of change of, the planetform. They were, first of all, they came in low off the horizon, so right off the ocean, and the rate of change that I observed, the size of the objects as they moved over my head, would tell me that they were somewhere. I've seen a lot of hang gliders now flying over my head too, so somewhere around about 1,000 feet. something like that. And I haven't. That would mean that maybe these objects were about the size of a car each, something like that.
And that's close enough for you to hear something. Did you hear the wind?
Nope.
You didn't hear them cracking the wind?
Dead silence. Dead silence. Dead silence. And that's another thing that is common. When you have the sighting, it's like everything goes silent, like beyond crickets. You know what I mean? Just nothing. That's how it was. It was just quiet. No sound at all.
What is it? Yeah, Steve, and you've been here in Southern California your entire life. What is it about that area in between Catalina, Malibu, and LAX? That little triangle right there. What is it with UFOs and that area? It's a daily occurrence.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and then over the years, many people see these things over the ocean, just right, Redondo Beach. And it is. It's between Catalina and LAX and, Malibu. This whole area, it is a hot spot. We had so many people, videotaping objects. They're in Hermosa Beach looking out the ocean. There's an object. I had another witness close, but I won't reveal his identity because I don't know if he'd want me to. But anyway, he was in his condo that was right on the ocean with his girlfriend at the time, fiance, and they were observing this object just sitting right over like the pier in Redondo Beach, okay, just like doing this light show for him. Basically, like 100 feet away from their balcony, just doing it. He was just out of his mind. He called and left a message on my phone that was just, very excited, very, he couldn't believe it, and he had his fiance there to back him up. And of course, he's had other sightings as well along the way, which is not uncommon. Multiple sighting witnesses. So, I don't know. It's the strangest phenomenon, man. It's just the strangest, absurd. You cannot nail it down. You know what I mean? You cannot say it's this or that because it's so elusive. The phenomenon itself displays an intelligence that almost like plays a game with the observers. So you see it, but you can't quite quantify it. You know what I mean? You can't nail it down.
George Norrie was on the show last week and said something to me really interesting. I said, so have you ever seen, a UFO? And he goes, well, just this one time with Ed Grimsley. You remember Ed? He's a great guy. Oh,
yeah, sure.
And he said, they were on the roof of a hotel, got out the night vision, and boom. And he said it was so high up that it couldn't have been other things that you would think of, birds, bugs, whatever. But that they were moving, and I hear the story over and over again. I haven't done the night vision yet, and that's why I'm asking you about this. But he said, stopping, moving at high rates of speed, stopping and making these right-hand turns, things that birds or bugs or other things just wouldn't do. What's your experience with that?
Like, what's causing it, or how can they do that, or
the night vision? Because, because
we got into the night vision in Contact and had some pretty interesting stuff. Contact in the Desert, and they're going to do that again this year. I'd highly, if anybody's interested in seeing UFOs, high probability of doing it at Contact in the Desert. Better than normal because you're out in Joshua Tree. You've got the night visions you can look through, and you'll see the things that Ed Grimsley's been talking about for the last 20 years or whatever. Rest his soul. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Melinda Leslie, and if she's listening right now, hi Melinda. She just sent me a little message that she's going to be doing 3 nights of night vision out at Contact. So,
beautiful.
Yeah, one of those nights, I'm definitely going to go check it out. I was telling George that I'm almost afraid to do it. In that I don't, it's such a verification of things. You know what I mean? You pull the night vision away, you're looking, there's nothing there. You pop it on, and you're seeing crazy stuff. And that's a game changer, man. That's a paradigm shift in one's life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so be prepared for that. Yeah. You know, once you step through the looking glass, you can't go back. You know, the world changes. The world changes for you. You know, it's really funny when people go, "Oh, you know, you're Steve Murillo, so you believe in UFOs," as if it's something that requires some sort of a faith. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
The statement, "Oh, so you believe in UFOs?" It's like, "Oh, so you know," and they say it because they haven't had that experience. When the difference between someone who's had a profound UFO sighting or experience and somebody who has not is night and day. So the person who's had the experience requires no other validation, justification, anything. They know what they saw. You always hear that. I know what I saw. You always hear that from witnesses because, you know, of course, they're made to feel marginalized and all that by society because that's been programmed into society. But, yeah, it's a profound thing and it's a game changer and you never can go back. You know 100%, you know, that this is something not from around here.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like the police coming up, right? You see a car go by and it's bright yellow and it's 10 feet in front of you, right? The police show up and go, did you see that car? Yes, I did. It was a red one, right? No, it was yellow. No, it wasn't. It was red. No, it was yellow. I know what I saw. No, it wasn't. It was red. You saw a red car. You're not going to change somebody's mind, right? Because you just know what you saw. What's interesting when you say that it was done for you, and I hear a statement like that, if somebody who is a non-believer hears something like that, they just want to roll their eyes and go, you know,
yeah,
this person's
sounds crazy. Absolutely.
Right.
Sounds nuts. That sounds nuts. Even me saying it sounds nuts.
It sounds nuts.
But that's also part of this phenomenon, this experience, because the things that you experience or see are so ridiculously crazy that when you talk about it, you sound like an idiot. You know, you sound like a nut. But the truth is the truth. You know what I mean? What you see, you see. What they do, they do. There's no denying these things can turn 90 degrees and beyond on a dime in an instantaneous less than a second. So it's just the weirdest thing.
It is, and this is what's interesting about that. This is why I listen to people when they have an experience like that, and when they say it was done just for me, and you're saying that now. As you know, Rita and I had our famous case when we were coming down on Latuna Canyon. And when that light came down in a split second and looked like it crash landed in downtown Van Nuys at 10:30 at night. Now, I'm telling you, the valley is 1 million people. And the valley at 10,000 at 10:30 at night is full of life. Right? There's people out. And nobody saw it. Nobody reported anything. And it's just like, how is that possible? Well, damn it.
But you guys did.
I know what I saw. I know what I saw. Nobody's going to change my mind and tell me that we didn't see it because I did. Well, nobody else reported it. Well, what do you want me to say? I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah. But you were with Rita, right? And so you had that. You could validate one another. You could say, "Did you see that? Yeah, I saw that." Okay, so now you know you're not crazy, and you didn't really see something. You have a second opinion. But
well, you know what the best part
for you guys, sort of like for you guys, it's sort of pried open your mind a little bit, and I don't know if you'd necessarily be doing this show if you didn't have that experience.
Well, you know what's funny? You know, I'm just glad Rita saw it first. She saw it first. That's all I got to say, because if it would have been me, then whatever, church, okay. No, Rita saw it first, and there's no bigger skeptic in that she questions everything, right?
She's very pragmatic. I will say that.
Very pragmatic. So emotions don't come into play with something like that. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. But she saw it first, and you're absolutely right. And nobody's going to be able to convince me otherwise. And now let's change gears a little bit, Steve. We have this.
Sure.
And I do want to take some phone calls. You know, the Fadernauts are going to want to call and say hi to you tonight, so we'll do that in a little bit too. Is this strange case of Kyle Odum You've read the manifesto?
Yep.
What goes through your mind as you read that?
Good question. Really reading his manifesto, I'd have to go with schizophrenia, Jim. I mean, it could be a combination. First of all, have you noticed how a lot of schizophrenics highly intelligent? Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Maybe you have. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But highly intelligent. I mean, if you look at his writing, I don't see many grammatical errors here.
No.
Just a well-written guy.
Yep.
The thoughts are easy to follow. It's not all over the place. But then the subject of those thoughts is like outlandish. And then there's the persecution complex in there. There's he's calling them Martians, and it's a little bit outdated of a term. I don't know. What do you think?
See, look, he was going for postgraduate education.
Right.
He was in a very, very heavy technical field of life. One that, we're not talking about somebody, he's not like me. He's not a waiter at a restaurant. Something that doesn't take postgraduate school, like being a radio host.
Yeah.
Right? So here's a guy pursuing higher education, very well written, wants everybody to know that he's not dumb, and he gives his background. So when you look at it from that side, how does somebody like that, and the schizophrenia comes to mind immediately, of course it does, but how does somebody like that completely unravel?
Good question.
Completely. And he says in his manifesto that it all started 2 years ago. He came unraveled. His life up until 2014 was uneventful.
Right. Yeah, even didn't he admit to trying to commit suicide once or twice, but they stopped him both times.
And not only, the reptilians, and
the reptilians.
And it wasn't so much. This is where, for me, the manifesto is a little bit disturbing. Where we kind of got to figure out what's going on. It wasn't one event, like one person he was afraid of, or this thing in his life that he couldn't go outside because the world is closing down on him, or what have you. Hearing voices in his head. It wasn't that. It was interaction with everybody around him and going to this church and the interaction on the airplanes and the cell phone and the track phone and the detail that he went into each one of these events. It was conversations with, it wasn't like it was conversations with an imaginary friend in his head. That's the thing. It was his entire world. So I don't know, man. I can't. I'm not totally saying the guy was just a schizophrenic. I'm not saying that. There are a lot of elements in here. You're right that I've heard from other witnesses. You know what I mean? For example, a witness feeling or hearing the thoughts. Let's say they're in a train, a subway. And there's one guy at this end of the car. There's two people over there. They're all dressed about the same kind of dark clothes, and they're making a mental telepathic connection with him, right? And I've heard that sort of a scenario where they're into his head, they're into the witness's head and telling him things, and they're scared out of their mind. So like different elements, or the drawing that he does at the end of the manifesto of the reptilian. Kind of looks like a Muppet, but he even says, looks like a Muppet. These things look like Muppets. So it's kind of you really have to weigh into it a little bit more to make it to give it a good conclusion. Well, is it now? See, I don't know. I don't know much about schizophrenia. I haven't had a relative or a friend that has gone through that, so I, would have experience or looked into it and asked questions or anything. So I don't know.
Right.
But is it?
Right.
Is it for a schizophrenic? Is it your entire world, like everybody around you, and is everything just different? I don't know, because that's the way.
I don't know personally either. I do know that there's often a feeling of persecution or feelings of persecution. There's also these ideas that there's a plot of people are plotting against you in some way. What's interesting about this case, though, is that it seems to have been brought on by his meditation, or at least that's what he writes. That he's exploring meditation. He goes further into it, and eventually ends up in this dark space, and this blue light comes to him, and it's this being who makes him feel intense love, and then the whole thing starts to unravel, So it's sort of, the catalyst is meditation, at least according to his manifesto. So, which is interesting. I've never heard schizophrenia brought on by meditation, but what do I know? I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I wouldn't know. And then, it's a debilitating thing. It can be a very debilitating thing. So, I feel for people who have that. It's terrible.
What'd you think about his little note to Obama at the end?
Well, the first thing I disagreed with, good job, Mr. President. I think you're doing a great. I hate to say it, Jim, but I'm not a big Obama fan. Okay. Maybe some of your listeners are offended, but I'm just not a big fan.
Okay.
Put it that way.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, look, somebody said the other night when I was on Coast, somebody wanted to talk about politics, and I said, look, I'm an agnostic, right, when it comes to politics. And then somebody tweeted out or sent me an email that somebody that was apolitical back in Rome back in the day, right, would be considered an idiot, like they were calling me an idiot, right? But what they didn't understand was I didn't say apolitical, number one, that I wasn't interested in politics. Of course, I am completely interested in it. But when I say that I'm agnostic, and especially through this election cycle, trust me, I ain't touching any of that. I'm not even getting close. I'm not laying claim to anybody that's running right now. And that's what I
hear you.
I'm not going to associate myself with that mess. I'm a little embarrassed to be an American.
I don't blame you. Here's what I can tell you about our politics and ufology. I can make the tie-in there. The same people that have squashed the topic of ufology, have made it to be marginalized and have made all the people who have studied it to be small or go out of business or kill suicide themselves or whatever. That same power structure that's controlling the topic of ufology is the same power structure that's controlling who gets elected, the direction of this country and the world. So.
Well, what makes you say that? 30 seconds. What makes you say that?
Well, they decided to put a squash on the UFO topic in the early 50s. After they knew they really had a tiger by the tail. They came up with Majestic 12 and all that, and literally it went from a respected topic that nobody was ridiculed about to hey, you're seeing little green men, you must be an idiot. And they did that quickly. And now that's the knee-jerk reaction for anybody that hears about someone who says, oh, I saw a UFO, or I think I saw an alien being, or whatever. The knee-jerk reaction programmed into society is to marginalize that and marginalize the person. But that programming has been effectively done through many, many different forms of media, movies, commercials, cartoons, just a barrage newspapers, all the tabloids and everything else. Just a barrage of media influencing the way society thinks. And we were made to behave or respond to this topic in a certain way.
Well, let me jump in right there. We got to take a quick break. Our guest is Steve Murillo. We'll pick up the Hillary discussion right after the break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Not being able to fall asleep is so frustrating. The tossing, the turning, the adjustment of pillows and blankets. Ugh! Eventually you just decide to get up and start your day really early. It doesn't have to be this way though. Power Sleep is an all-natural non-prescription formula that will help you sleep like a baby. It contains neurotransmitter nutrients that promote the production of serotonin, which is responsible for feelings of well-being. Power Sleep is easy to digest and absorb and is made in a base of active probiotics. Don't miss another night of sleep. Order your Power Sleep at EnergyWave.com or call 800-TURTLE-5. Add Power Vites to your cart while you're browsing. Perfect for Monday mornings. They're a complete multivitamin and mineral formula that will give you the energy you need to get through your day. Nourish your immune system and feel great. Get all the info and place your order at EnergyWave.com. Enter code word SLEEP to get free shipping. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air, to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's all here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest is Steve Murillo. Tomorrow night, Dr. Stephen Greer is going to be here. And then on Wednesday, Oli Damagard, live from Spain. You can follow me right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Use the hashtag F2, that's the number 2, hashtag F2B, and come and join the sandbox. All right, now, big announcement. Our Contact in the Desert full weekend pass winner tonight is Tori Murillo from Palermo, Maine. Tori Murillo, you are going to Contact in the Desert, and Steve Murillo will buy drinks for you all night long at the Joshua Tree Saloon.
Absolutely. Yep.
Now, Steve, in your, and I want to discuss not Kyle Odum, Bronton in a second, because of the similarity is between the two, between Kyle and Bronton, are kind of, well, it's curious. I don't know if it's alarming yet, but certainly curious. But before we get to that, we were talking about politics and ufology and disclosure before the break. In all of your years, 13 years at MUFON, obviously a military career, TRW, professional. You're still a professional today. Well, in my estimation, well, you drive a nice car. We'll leave it at that. So anyway,
thanks, man.
but in all of your years, have you ever seen this many politicians put ufology and disclosure on the front burner in mass communication like this?
Yeah, I haven't, and of course, Hillary's the biggest proponent of it, right? But her husband led the charge way back when, or at least he said he did. And to me, it's just a ruse. It's a way to make the people believe that she's looking for total transparency in the government and all this nonsense. Area 51, she was talking about that on Jimmy Kimmel. How she wanted to get in and let people know what's going on at Area 51. There's nothing going on at Area 51 anymore. Not the stuff that they were doing before. You know what I mean? All the reverse engineering stuff got moved. So they have some cool stuff flying around, but I don't think it's the ufology stuff that we used to see out there. I'm just not so sure. Yeah, so she's just throwing that out there as a way to make her, to make it seem like she's an open person, but I don't buy it.
When she was on Kimmel last, there was one thing that she said. Forget about everything else. But she said 3 letters that floored me. She said, they're not called UFOs anymore. They're called UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. And when she said that, all I could think of was, holy crap, she is on top of her game. She is interested in this. She's
sort of. I mean, that was the old NICAP thing,
Yeah.
That's what NICAP guys called them, the UAPs. But that was before MUFON and everything else. So.
But my point is, you don't know that unless you're into the subject.
I have no doubt that she's read up on it. In fact, wasn't there a picture back like maybe 10 years ago or maybe a little bit less, 8 years ago, where she's carrying I forget what the popular UFO book was at the time. Maybe it wasn't that long ago. Maybe it was Leslie Kean's book.
Right.
But there was a picture of her with her head down walking in the park or somewhere.
Oh, with Rockefeller. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Yep. So it's not like she's not, I'm not saying she's not interested in the subject. Maybe she is. But, hey, if you think that, look, the government, the powers that be that control our government also control her. Okay, so those same people, we'll call them, for want of a better term, have been controlling the subject of ufology from the beginning. So if we somehow think that she's going to step out of rank and break the news, give us some sort of news about this, I don't think so. It's not going to happen. She's with the old regime, man. She's deeply embedded. She's not going to do anything they don't tell her to do. And unfortunately, don't get me going politics, man. I'm going politics here.
Yeah,
get me out of here.
That's fine. I think the book, if my memory is right, I could be wrong, I could be off, but I think it was "Are We Alone?" I think that's what she was holding.
That's the one. That's the one. Good memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never cease to amaze me. You have a great memory. You always remember all these little details about these things, which is a really good thing to have as a researcher.
Smoke and mirrors, man. Smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Come on. Now, you know what? This call, I'm just going to do this just because I'm that guy. Let's just do this. Hey, Dino, you've called 20 times for Steve, so I'm just going to pick up. What's up? Now he's hanging up. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. All right. Steve, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, man. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was. Dino, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, that was weird. A third call came in and started ringing, and it shouldn't have. Dino,
They're monitoring me.
Yeah, I'm just being courteous. What do you have for Steve?
Well, Steve, hi. We're enjoying your stories, and I'd like you to go into some more maybe stories we haven't heard in your time on MUFON. But my initial question is, you're an ex-military guy, obviously trained in college like I was, and if you had not seen this sighting of yours, maybe you wouldn't be into this. So what I want to ask you, without getting political, is what do you see? And again, I want to hear some more stories maybe some of us hadn't heard, but for right now, what have you, in all that you've seen and all your MUFON experience and everything that you've done up to now, what do you see as the big picture? I mean, is it something that's being covered up by a breakaway society? Do you believe that things are being hidden purposely from us for an agenda more than just national security?
Let me answer the last part of your question. Do I believe that there's more than national security at stake? Absolutely. It's not really about national security so much as it is about control of and manipulation of the population at large. So, in other words, I personally believe, this is my personal opinion, okay? I'm not speaking for anybody else. I personally believe that whoever is controlling the information and the topic of ufology has a lot to lose by disclosing that. And, what are we talking about? We're talking about some sort of free energy system where, when I say free energy, I don't mean free, but like easily accessed energy that you don't have to fill up at the gas station to get. Something that perhaps exists in the quote-unquote ether, the vacuum of the ether. I don't know. Is there a possibility of a breakaway society? I think there's a strong possibility of that. It only makes sense because when you have a small cadre of people putting their hands around this topic, this information at a critical juncture, let's say it was Roswell, and then they have to build up a system around that. That system will eventually, as they discover more and more and reverse engineer things, that system will evolve unto itself. And it will, by its nature, of course, it's secret to begin with and beyond the secrecy of nuclear weapons. So it's going to go literally underground. I mean, it's going to go underground in some way and continue to evolve. They're going to take that information in that topic and they're going to explore it to its utmost in a setting that's, free from distraction and free from infiltration. So logically, that would be underground. I'm not saying that's where they are. I'm not saying that. I don't know for sure. But logically, that's one place you might go, is underground in a place where nobody would ever think to look. And that breakaway civilization would literally, after a while, just wouldn't be recognizable. I mean, think about the technologies that you're talking about. You're talking about, first of all, anti-gravity technology, free energy. You're talking about probably computational technology that would, just like leave our best computers in the dust. Already our scientists, just now, what we hear in the public is scientists have discovered how to store data in DNA. Terabytes upon terabytes of data stored in DNA. Well, how about this? What if, that's what our guys on the surface are doing. What did they do way back then? What did they discover? I don't know. Nano machines, nano computers. Just stuff that would blow our minds. So, with this sort of technology, could there be a breakaway civilization? Yeah, strongly suspect that that's what happened. Are they part of the cover-up? Probably. But, it's all speculation. Because of its very nature, it's all speculation. It's hidden itself so well, and a lot of it's hidden in plain sight. So you can only speculate. And, of course, their disinformation campaign and misinformation campaigns are so well thought out that they're 5 steps ahead of you on a chessboard. So, we're just playing catch up the whole time. So I don't know if I answered your question well. I apologize.
I think you did, Bill. I could talk to you for hours, but I'll let you go and tell us some more things we don't know about sightings that maybe aren't as publicized. That would be interesting. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You know, what's interesting with that whole scenario is when somebody asks me, and I'll hit you with this, Steve, and now that I think about it, I don't think you and I have ever talked about this over the years, is this. Why, when somebody says, why would the elite want to cull the herd? Why would they want to wipe us out? Why, the Georgia Guidestones, take us down to 500 million people? Why would they? Because they're destroying their own planet too as well. And my answer to that is, dude, they're going underground. They've got that. Yeah. They've got their escape plan ready to go, and you won't know it because the construction isn't above ground, where it would be bad for them to hang out anyway, and you would know what they were up to. So, of course, it would be underground. You wouldn't see it. You wouldn't know about it, and that's why they would survive whatever the grand plan is. And as crazy and horror movie sci-fi as that sounds, if that was indeed their plan, they're going to live underground or off planet or a combination of both.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one. Yeah, we didn't even go there with the breakaway tech. I mean, if it does exist, they're off planet. Maybe we have to believe, that we do have a secret space force. But yeah, that's a good point, Jim. That's a really good point. They wouldn't be, and they won't be in our face about it until it's all set up. Well, now it's all. I think that we're nearing that point where everything's set and in place. They've got their food stores or whatever they think they need all set up. Because look, this election, quote unquote election. They're stealing delegates from Sanders. They're stealing delegates from Trump. But it's in your face. They don't even apologize for it or make it. They do it in broad daylight right in front of you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, in other words, you wouldn't do that because you know what the repercussion's going to be, right? There's going to be an outcry and possibly more. So you don't do those sorts of things unless you know you got it all under control. You've already got the backup plan all set. So,
Yeah, there's another
interesting times.
I'll tell you another strange little conspiracy about this election before we move on. I want to talk about Bronton. Is the two anti-establishment guys, allegedly, right? Sanders and Trump, right? Republican and Democrat. Both of these guys are anti-Washington, anti-this. Let's burn this place down, right?
Sure.
And now both of them are finding out that in order to move forward, they got to start kissing butt to the establishment. That's the crazy thing is the anti-establishment guys are going to find out how quick you have to be in the boys club. You can scream all you want, but and it all sounds good at this stage. But to move forward, you're going to have to start kissing some butt, and you're going to have to conform. And you're going to get the phone call. You're going to get the phone call. We'll find out how anti-establishment one of them is if they get into the Oval Office. Those guys will be conformed and beaten into shape before you know it. And that's
probably right.
It's happened with everybody that's ever been elected to the Oval Office. They talk.
And Kennedy didn't last all too long, did he?
No, that's right. That's a perfect
he wasn't
example.
Towing the line. He was not towing the line. He didn't want to go to Vietnam, and the big war machine did. And they got and Lyndon wanted that spot. They asked Nixon. Nixon made a comment to somebody. He said the only difference between me and Lyndon is I wasn't ready to kill to become the president. And I forget who he said that to, but I mean, it was a coup, and they assassinated, Lyndon and probably some other faction of who knows what got together, and they shot him in the head from the back and the front.
I'll tell you what,
shot him dead.
There's one thing about Nixon that if you look at that guy. forget about Watergate. If you look at his career going back to the late 50s and you really do some research, that guy was the most corrupt CIA assassin, coup d'etat, double backstabbing, manipulative, crazy, illegal, corrupt felon you could ever imagine. And
just the way they like him.
I swear, Nixon was, Watergate aside, that dude was foul, man. Oh,
I know. Think about Clinton, man. Think about the drug trading through Arkansas when he was governor. And, and Hillary covering up like over 30 alleged rapes that Bill perpetrated on different women, or attempted rapes, and she'd like silence them. These people are they're criminals, man. It's ridiculous. That's what, like, one of the prerequisites to run for president. You got to be a criminal. I don't know.
Yeah.
It is a topsy-turvy world, man. It's just out of control.
Now, when it comes to, I want to change gears and get back on track with.
Yeah. We're going totally political.
It's fine. It's fine, because the thing is, when it comes to politics, Steve, when even though I'm not here to divide and conquer my audience, what I want everybody to always understand, especially when it comes to politics, when I talk about politics, is that is the biggest conspiracy of all. That's it. That is the definition of conspiracy, right? To conspire with somebody else to commit a crime.
Yeah.
That is all of Washington, D.C. That is all of the world. That is all of everything. That is it. That is the biggest conspiracy of all. And I love it. I love just flipping over something and just looking underneath it. And each one of these guys running right now is evidence of that. So, no, I have no problems going there. I just go to the dark side. Is Bronton. Throughout the years, Bronton, back in the day, when I was, really, really, really going into the darkness of ufology and that conspiracy side of it, Bronton was one of the craziest things out there. And you could go, if you knew what to do, you could go and read and get updates. And there was always something breaking and some other, some literary thing that he had just published. And it touched upon, and it was a vision of the future. It was the future of ufology. It was the future of conspiracies. But he had his toes in the sand of all of these subjects before everybody else did, and his reptilian view on the New World Order and monarchies and politics in the United States and everything else, underground bases and all of this is what is being talked about all over the place today.
Absolutely. David Icke and beyond.
David Icke.
I took his material from him. Absolutely, no doubt. Icke was really adept at stealing from different guys like Bronton, and then and coming up with his own little story. You know what I mean? He was excellent. He's a very bright guy. But underground bases and raging battles beneath the earth. Crazy. But he was ahead of his time.
And then you look at Kyle Odum's manifesto, and you see the similarities, and so when we talk about the possibility of Kyle Odum just being schizophrenic, and this is just all nuts, is there a progenitor here for this? Was he reading Bronton's stuff? Was he was he a meth head? Did he just lose his mind on drugs and reading all of this stuff from guys like Bronton out there online? That is why we see this cross-pollination of information between Odum's manifesto and what Bronton was saying 20 years ago, 20.
Yeah. Very possibly, even reading something in passing, your mind records it. So who knows what Kyle Odum recorded along the way. He's obviously a very well-read guy. He was probably into science fiction, things like that. Bright guy. He could have come across it and then incorporated it into his own processes, his own ideas.
Yeah, and we're saying schizophrenic. What's really crazy here is if some.
Well, let me stop you for a second. I apologize. I don't mean to label him schizophrenic. I'm not saying that he absolutely was, because I've come across so many witnesses with similar stories, all the way to little weird things about reptilians. You remember the story that Alex Mastretta told?
Yes.
And I don't know if I can't really actually tell it, but I can't name names, but he told a story where he thought he had seen something interesting, but it's out there. It's not like it's not like Kyle Odum's story is entirely unique. He could have pulled or cross-pollinated from a lot of other people's stories, but in my dealings with witnesses, I've heard just about all this in some way, shape, or form from everybody else. You know.
Well, and then stuff like this happens. Like if you take the case of Paul Benowitz, where you have a situation where, or anybody that you know that is has seen something for real, right? And then somebody comes along and says, yes, it is real. Oh, I knew it, right? Something. And then somebody comes along and says, you know what? We lied to you. And we're joking. And now they're teetering on the edge of reality and not, and possibly starting to go a little bit crazy themselves. And then they see something that is real. Now the brain is misfiring. You know, now they don't know. They can't separate reality from not. They know what they've seen. Now they don't know if what they've seen is real or if they're imagining it, and their head gets all twisted up. You know, and that's the other part of all of this that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So take a guy like that, right, where you're giving him cross information, he sees something real, you go along with it, and you say you're going to give him more, you lead him in, you lead him down the dark tunnel, and then you say, we were just kidding, or you say, this is really how it is, and now he's doubting himself, doubting his own mind, is he going insane? And then you add the pressure of intimidation, of, let's say you start messing with his financial life, and he's broke, and his wife leaves him, his family leaves him, he's alone. You isolate him, you add more pressure, you have cars following him, and before you know it, this guy's a loony bin. You know, he's nutso. You know, he's totally gone off the deep end, and you've done it. And maybe you've done it with mind control weapons. You know, pointing a little weapon at him from across the street at his house, and then just playing with his brain, training his brain waves to move in a certain direction. I mean, this is all stuff that's like off the shelf technology now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Back then it wasn't talked about. So, yeah, you could take a guy who's very intelligent, give him an experience, or if he's had an experience, follow up, and take him to the loony bin.
And that's what they did with Benowitz, you know. And I say this all the time, and I really mean it.
How cruel!
Yeah, before you even question that, you know, the government would never do anything like that. Well, you know what? They did it to Paul Benowitz. And going into his house and moving his furniture around. You know, it's just messing with the guy completely.
I mean, how cruel?
I mean,
can you be to a person? You know what I mean?
Oh, I just can't imagine the darkness that he went down. And then, you know, they come back at him and go, you know what? It's all in your mind. Oh, no, it's not in your mind. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Here's some documents. Oh, the documents aren't real. They had him so twisted up. In the end, he didn't know up from down.
Right. But think about the evil behind that sort of group that's pulling the strings on Paul Benowitz. Think about the evil that sort of person, they're getting off on. You know, they're feeling proud of themselves, and they're getting off on driving a man crazy, taking him to the wrong, you know what I mean, just taking him down. And somehow that's rewarding to them. That same philosophy comes from the same philosophy that's controlling the topic itself. You know what I mean? It's the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So you had a little cadre of guys over here that decided to deal with Benowitz, but they had orders.
Yeah, that was always Richard Doty's thing. We're going to take a break right here, but that was always Richard Doty's thing. Hey, man, it was my job.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's what they said. That's what the Nazis said when they were, putting all those poor people to death.
This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Steve Murillo. I'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
If your home has hard water and it's leaving white spots, then it's likely that limescale is clogging your pipes. Limescale can cost hundreds of dollars a year in wasted energy and early appliance breakdown. HydroCare systems available at Wave Home Solutions prevent and remove limescale with just a simple filter change every 3 years. There are no salts, chemicals, or magnetic coils. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, just go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
If you're a talk radio fan, AccessRadio.net lets you listen to the best talk shows anytime and from anywhere. Works on your mobile or landline phone, and there's no cost if you have unlimited minutes. No need to use your data. Find your favorite talk show listen lines and discover new ones. Now you can listen on your schedule. Go to AccessRadio.net. That's AccessRadio.net. Save your favorite listen lines today.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. When I'm not hosting my radio program, The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA, or writing new books on UFOs, I run a publishing company. I'm proud to say that Richard Dolan Press has published some of the most fascinating books available on UFOs and related subjects. They include Dr. Bruce Maccabee's classic analysis of the UFO cover-up, David Marler's breakthrough book on triangular UFOs, Dr. Richard Sauter's unique work on underground bases, and other classics by Grant Cameron, Chase Kletsky, and Dr. Bob Wood, not to mention intriguing works by Eve Lorgan and Laurie MacDonald that deal with truly bizarre phenomena. I'm proud to publish such high-quality and original works, and there are several amazing books about to be released over the next few months. Go to richarddolanpress.com to learn more.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Steve Murillo of UPARS. Tomorrow night, Dr. Stephen Greer will be here. And then on Wednesday, Oli Damagard. And we're going to be talking about false flags and assassination conspiracies throughout the world. And let's go back to Steve and let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black.
Hello?
You're live right now.
Hi, this is Cassandra from LA, and I just want to thank you guys, especially about your RV trip to the desert. And my question is, have you guys seen the film called Paul?
Oh, love that film. It's a documentary.
Oh, yeah, that was funny. I liked it.
Yeah, I own it, and I watch it like every now and then. And your trip sounds like a possible duplication of such. So I just had to call and ask about that.
That's pretty funny, Cassandra. And I'll tell you, Paul's a documentary, and one of the cool things about it is all of those little things that only we would know, in our circles, are in that film, and that's what's really cool.
Well, that actually leads to my next question. What can I watch or study to buck up on what the heck they were visiting? Because I never heard about the black mailbox until that film and you guys mentioning it tonight, or the alien bar for a drink, which they do, and you mentioned doing. So,
Yep.
I need to study.
Well, Steve, that's interesting. An Area 51 documentary. Huh.
Yeah, that'd be a question for Wolf.
Yeah.
I wonder. Yeah, I mean, like what to expect. Where to go.
You know what I would do?
The reason I knew was because Wolf was there with me, and he showed me around.
You know what I would do, Cassandra? I would go and look at all of the old. There's about 4 or 5 really good ones. Bob Lazar interviews. That were okay. And there are some really, really good ones, and go check that out because Bob worked at Area 51 and lived in Las Vegas, and so all of those angles, and not all of them, but most of them, that'll start pointing you in the right direction. But I would go watch Bob Lazar's original interview series, and there's about 4 or 5. Pretty good ones online. You know what I do, Steve? I don't know if you've done this lately, but I'll go and watch the Bob Lazar interviews, and I try to trip him up. Watching.
You try to catch him in a lie, right?
I can't do it.
I know.
I can't do it. Can't do it.
I got to be honest with you. I think Lazar was totally legit. I think when the story finally came out, they did everything in their power to discredit him, and he was smart enough to know to back away from it. I mean, he was highly intelligent. So what did he do? He created his own company selling chemicals and hard to get chemicals and things like that. He converted his knowledge to a business, and and along the way he made some interesting vehicles, that ran on biodiesel and everything else.
Hydrogen. So, he built a hydrogen.
Yeah, hydrogen.
Right.
Yeah. He convert a Corvette to a hydrogen Corvette.
And he had the Honda rocket car before everything, at Los Alamos. But the other thing, Cassandra, it's Bob Lazar, Bob Lazar. Go and watch the old stuff, and you'll thank us later. I promise.
Okay, and one quick comment, because I'm a total film buff, to give this poor schizo guy, if he is this Kyle guy, benefit of the doubt. I haven't read his thing, but when you said something about how it seemed like everyone was ganging up on him, like from the postman to the shop person, made me think it could be like the horror story Truman Show gone wrong.
Yeah.
Which ironically Jay Parker referred to in some research I was studying this weekend. So I thought, wow, that was serendipitous. So I wanted to share that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Yeah. And I apologize if I seemed a little bit insensitive about it because I'm not. I'm totally.
No, I think it's a total mystery. And I feel sorry for the guy because come on, if he shot someone 12 times, that's a little wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And look, you're not if you shoot. Well, it depends if it's self-defense, but anybody that murders somebody or that's not. You're not sane. Okay, you're just not. You're not.
Right. By definition.
Yeah. So it's not. I'm not talking about a crime of passion or something like that, but. If you just go and you shoot your pastor because he's a Martian, reptilian shapeshifter that is, in a sex cult, well, then, you might not be altogether there. Hey, Cassandra, thank you.
You might have lost your grip a little bit,
Just a little bit. Cassandra, thank you for the phone call.
Thank you.
Bye, Cassandra.
Now, back to Lazar. There's another interesting point here that I think people either they don't know or it kind of gets lost in translation in the data out there. If he was not what he says he was, and discredited and everything else, Caltech,
right.
and you blow all of that out of the water, and it was all made up. It's an all made up story. Then,
MIT, Caltech, yeah.
Right. Then why is he in the chemical business with Department of Defense contracts, and what is he doing working for DuPont? How do you pass that kind of background check? That you've lied about all of your education, aliens, UFOs, backwards engineering, power plants in flying saucers. Off the deep end stuff, according to them, but they're still going to allow him to have a chemical distribution company somewhere in the United States with government contracts?
Exactly.
How does that work? Explain that to me and I'm cool. That's all. Just explain it to me.
Right.
And he was convicted on pandering charges, right? So he's got a criminal record. What is he doing distributing chemicals across state lines? How does that happen?
Right. Well, the name like United Nuclear Scientific Equipment and Supplies, something doesn't add up.
Yeah, and then they bust him for shipping nuclear radioactive material, right? They bust him for that, but they don't shut him down. He doesn't go to jail.
No, I know.
He's still in business.
Yeah. So he obviously has some clearances we're not aware of, or some buddies that don't like to be known. But I personally believe Lazar is real. I mean, if you ask Wolf, he'll say, "Nah, the guy was an idiot." But I think he's the real deal.
Well, according to Wolf, the only person that's not an idiot is Alex Mastretta. Everybody else. Gene wants to know, he just posted this question for you, Steve. He wants to know if you saw any anomalies, anything strange while you were with the Marine Corps and jet pilot.
Answer, no. I never did. At that time. So here are the two things, my two experiences while I was a Marine. Okay. So I'm hanging out some Friday night at the Oceana O Club. Okay. And it's where all the pilots went at the end of the day after everybody's done flying. And in those days, it was a wet Navy. We called it the wet Navy. And it was like bravado to drink. Okay. So that's what you did. You drank. We were strong alcoholics. I mean, we weren't alcoholics literally, but we liked to get drunk, right? So we're all there, and these two guys, two of our buddies, are telling us this story. Oh, yeah, we saw a UFO. We chased a UFO today. And we're like, what? And everybody's laughing, and not really paying attention. And then they tell this story that they actually chased the UFO. They were vectored to chase an object. They chased the object. They took gun camera footage of the object. They were made to, when they landed, it was a cherry point. They were made to go to a separate hangar, and they were made to sit in a debriefing room and wait. And they waited for like an hour and a half. Then this Learjet flies into base. This dude gets off, takes the gun camera footage from them, and says to them, "This never happened, and you're not supposed to talk about it." Of course, that's the first thing they did when they get to the Oak Club is they start blabbing their mouth off. So that was the first incident, and at that time, I just thought they were goofing around. I didn't really think anything of that.
What did they say, Steve? Did they describe what they saw?
Honestly, I don't remember, Jimmy. I was so. That just had no business in my reality at the time, so I just sort of filtered it. I don't think I paid attention to the details of their story. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we were all drunk at the time anyway, so that's just a tidbit. And then the next story is about a buddy of mine. We were roommates going through flight school together, so he's a good friend. And he ended up at Camp Pendleton flying OV-10s, which is a forward observer type prop aircraft. Used a lot in Vietnam. Anyway, so it's a low-level thing. So he's flying, and you have a navigator in the back, and he was doing some sort of a check ride. I think he was doing instrument check ride or something, navigation check ride. And the guy in the back was his instructor or the guy that was checking him out. So they're on the way back to base at about 10,000 foot. And my buddy, he's got his head out of the cockpit now. The test is over, so he's looking around. And from right to left, but below his aircraft, he says this thing flew under him. It was Camp Pendleton, San Diego. He said it flew directly across his path, 90 degrees, and he said it was a silver flying saucer, just like out of the Jetsons. The way he said it's like out of the Jetsons. He said it was like a typical science fiction flying saucer, metallic. Flew right by him, but at a lower altitude. And he goes, "Did you see that?" And the instructor was looking down, doing something, taking notes or whatever. He didn't see it at all. See what? So he kept his mouth shut for a while, but then it was too much. So he opened his mouth, started talking about this in the ready room. And before you know it, he's like the laughing stock of all the pilots, right? They're just making, just poking fun, not terrible, but just poking fun at him, And so a few weeks later, one of his other buddies, another pilot, comes into the ready room after a flight, and he's flush white. He's just like white as a ghost. And Pete looks at him and goes, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "I think I just saw your UFO."
Shut up.
It really affected the guy. So, those are my two military stories. Of course, you read about all these other different stories, but those are my sort of secondhand experiences.
Was there anything? Was there anything in your flight school? Was there anything in the book about what to do
with? No.
Yeah.
No, not in ours. Not in ours. I guess there was something in the Air Force Academy's training manual or one of their manuals, like what to do. And this is back in the I went through the Naval Academy back in the early '80s, late '70s, early '80s. But in the 70s, the Air Force Academy had something in one of their training manuals about what to do, who to report it to, and all that. We have thousands of pilots seeing these things and filing reports back when it wasn't so, crazy to do it. They still held jobs. If they were really thought to be crazy, if they really truly were crazy, how come they let them keep flying?
Well, then there's the document by that was posted for the Air Force, John Greenwald, the Air Force Instruction Manual 10-206, and that's published online. There's two versions of it. There's the one that was done in 2008, and then they did the revision in 2011. Now, check this out. Before the recent revisions, the document itself, Steve, it advised pilots, radar operators, and all Air Force personnel on what to do when they encountered any unknown airborne objects. And it was right there. I read it myself. It's a crazy document. So then he goes and talks to Lee Spiegel about this. In the Huffington Post, Lee, he's a pit bull. He contacts the Pentagon and says, "Hey, man, what's up with this, 10-206? Because you guys reference UFOs." And they're like, "Don't know what you're talking about." And I think Greenwald said it was like that day or the next day, the new version went up. And
they pulled
right, that page is gone. Right?
Yeah.
But you can check it out at the Black Vault. All right, let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live. You're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
This is Mark from Oregon.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, hi, Steve. Hey, you were mentioning contact in the desert and using night vision to see UFOs that weren't visible with telescopes, binoculars, or the naked eye. And it reminded me of an experience I had while I was driving a long-haul truck, and I was driving across the state of Utah. And I saw something in the sky, and it was a bright day, nice, clear day. And I had my sunglasses on. I had a really good pair of Varney sunglasses. Loved them. But I saw this thing further off on the horizon, so I took off my sunglasses, and it was gone. And I thought, well, that's weird. I moved awful fast. I put my sunglasses back on, and it was there again.
Oh, no. Seriously?
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
I was able to see this through my polarized sunglasses, but not with my naked eye.
That must have been back in the 80s because you said Varney.
Varney.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, we all had Varneys. Yeah.
Great sunglasses.
Wow, that's... Yeah.
I just wondered if you'd ever heard of anybody else having an experience like that.
Yeah, interesting. It's kind of like the movie They Live, right?
Yeah, They Live, exactly, where you put the glasses on, you can see them. I personally never encountered a witness who had that story. No.
Well, I can't say that this was a UFO or it was so far away that I couldn't tell you what it was I was viewing. My feeling is that it was something out of the ordinary, but really I can't give that any credibility.
Yeah. Well, it's back in the 80s, Mark. Everything was out of the ordinary.
But you know,
everybody was supposed to laugh. Everybody was supposed to laugh. You know, I'm here all week. Okay.
Right.
All right.
I'll laugh for you, Jim.
All right. Thank you, brother.
No, but I mean, you know what it reminds me of, Jim? It reminds me of his story. Reminds me of those pilots in Campeche that were looking for drug runners in Mexico a few years back. They had forward-looking infrared. They had radar. And they had, and then they, of course, were looking out, and they came. These objects were trailing them. Do you remember the story?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and I think it was up to 11 objects paced them. They could not see them visually, but they could see them on the FLIR, the forward-looking infrared, and they could see them on radar. But yet, every time they looked out of the cockpit, you know, even though radar's indicating they're like just a mile off starboard or whatever, these things aren't there. You know what I mean? That is strange. That is weird.
Thank you for the phone call, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
One more quick.
Yeah.
Can I follow up with one more quick thing? And that's if the night vision photography is working, is anybody doing side-by-side photography, like telescopic photography, one with the night vision and one without, and so that those are a comparison, like side-by-side, like split screen?
Yeah, there's a lot of that online. I don't know if they'll be doing that at Contact in the Desert, but I think most people prefer to do it that way.
You know who made a little film of that, Mark, was Jose Escamilla.
Yes.
He had a side-by-side of that. It was interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's very
interesting. I'll check that out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark.
You bet.
And what's really crazy for everybody out there, I don't know if you and I think we have told the story before, but Steve and I and a bunch of the Fadernauts had our own sighting at Contact in the Desert. And that was pretty nuts. And Steve, when we had that sighting, where I know that I was facing the mountains on the patio and I was looking out over the desert, that was... and the sighting, the object was off to my right. Where were you on the patio? Were you facing me? Were you facing the object? How were you positioned?
At first, I was facing you, but then I turned and looked. So it was more or less from your vantage point.
So you turned to your left because it was to my right.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. What do you remember seeing? I know it was really fast, but what did you see? Tell the audience.
Well, to my memory, it was like just a speeding light, moving across the sky very quickly. That's the part that I caught. I didn't see it change direction. Did you?
I saw it only go straight up into the stars. That's what I saw. I mean,
that's pretty much what I saw. But I was behind you. You know what I mean? Meaning I was like, I saw it after you.
Right. Are you saying that? I don't even remember. Did somebody see it change directions? I thought it.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it came straight off the desert floor.
But just the speed of it was ridiculous.
Yeah, the speed was stupid. I have no idea how fast it was going, but it was at ludicrous speed, no doubt. It almost went to plaid. Bump. But
dude.
Yeah, that was really crazy because we were out there there was probably 8 of us, maybe 10 of us out on the patio.
Right.
And it was like, wouldn't it be cool if we saw something? And it was it was right then at that moment. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, that was on
here's
cue.
What I'm going to No, I know, but here's what I'm going to do, because I've noticed this correlation, all right? when witnesses are ready, so to speak, they have a sighting, or shortly thereafter they'll have a sighting. So if anybody's thinking about going to contact in the desert and they want to have a sighting, what I'd recommend is this: put it out there as a thought. Why? Okay, that sounds crazy and stupid. Another one of these crazy, stupid things, right? But think of it this way. Thought is energy, okay? And thought is energy in a pattern, okay? So it has signal. Okay, so now let's say you have something on the receiving end that is sensitive enough to read thought pattern through the ether or through space-time, okay? Let's say you have some evolved technology that can do that. So if you put out the thought, I'd really, really like to have confirmation about this phenomenon.
Right.
You may get surprised. You may get surprised. They may show up for you. And that's what Sandra Marsh used to always, and nobody knows who Sandra Marsh is. Maybe some of you do. But Sandra Marsh was a contactee and a sort of a mentor to me when I first came into MUFON LA. And she continually went out to the desert. She was always out in Joshua Tree, like every weekend available. She'd be out there in dirty, just in the dirt, waiting for night to fall so she could look up at the stars. And she led a couple trips for MUFON LA out there, and we saw things. But she would say that. She would say, look, you have to quiet your mind and then put it out there that that's what you want to have happen. And then, let's see what happens. And I think that actually works. I think it's part of Greer's repertoire, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is. But what's trippy, I didn't even think about that till right now, because that's exactly how it went down. Wouldn't it be cool if...
Exactly. So that's what I was tying that in.
Yeah, interesting.
They're just giving you confirmation. What's interesting, though, is they kind of... There sort of seems to be a kind of a dark element to this phenomenon, but there's also like a positive element to the phenomenon. And the positive element says, we're going to give you as much as you can deal with right about now. So we see a light, boom, flash up in the sky. And you're not sure quite, maybe it was, yeah, probably it was. I think it was something pretty cool, but you're not quite sure. So they pried your mind open just enough, right, that you could deal with it. And for others, it's just right in their face, boom, deal with this now, buddy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then it becomes traumatic. Sometimes it's an overload. And, you get people like our buddy who shot his pastor. So, anyway, that's the phenomenon. Kyle Odum.
And the sighting that we had together, which is cool because we can both tell our own versions of the story. But what I remembered was that it was so fast, but there was no streak. There was no flames. There was no trailing light. There was no sparks. There was no smoke. There was no noise. It was just a ball of light. I have no idea how big it was because it was probably a mile or two away from us.
Hard to tell.
Hard to tell the size, but it was definitely a ball of light that just shot straight up, and it didn't. How can a light travel at that kind of speed and not leave a blur behind it? You can spin a cigarette in the air and see the trail of the the orange glow, right? Same.
Yep.
And so how can this happen? Well, I don't know. It's such a weird thing for me to describe to people. What are you doing, Steve? Are you making margaritas or something?
No, I'm trying. I came across this weekend. I came across an outstanding recent sighting on YouTube that I would call, as a researcher, I would call legit. I'm trying to find it so I can tell the subscribers and viewers about it, the listeners about it. It's like probably one of the best. What I would call that's a good sighting. That's a real sighting. It's a video. Because you were talking about a ball of light with no streaks, a ball of flame with no flame. This thing comes down, and you hear all kinds of people reacting to it. This thing comes down like a ball of fire,
right?
And you think, okay, here comes a bolide, another bolide, YouTube thing where you're looking at a bolide and they're calling it a UFO. The thing comes down like a bolide and then splits up, and you go, okay, it's a bolide blowing up. and they're still streaming out sparks and stuff. And then the five, no, I think it was six. The 6 points stop in a constellation and then turn into solid, glowing points of light, and just stay in formation, solid, not falling anymore, just sitting there. And you're like, holy smokes.
Well, let's hey, Steve, let's take a break right here. I'm going to get you to hang on. Dig that up and email it to me during the break, and I'll post it up on Twitter. All right? And
I will. I'll find it for you. Profound.
I'll see you in about 3 minutes. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Steve Murillo, UPARS. 13 years at MUFON. 7 years fighter pilot for the Marine Corps. Heavy discussion. Good times. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. I'll be right back.
Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Angioprim can clean blocked arteries and improve blood flow in all parts of your body. Angioprim is liquid oral chelation. It's not new science. 50 years of research has gone into chelation, and now there's Angioprim. Easy, simple, liquid oral chelation. You take it with juice before breakfast and forget about it. Angioprim works fast, unlike old-fashioned chelation that takes hours. The first thing Angioprim users say is they have more energy, more strength, more endurance. Increased circulation and blood flow will make all your body parts work better. Log on now at angioprim.com to get more information on how you can get started and start feeling better and doing more. Lots more. Talk to a trained Angioprim consultant or go to angioprim.com for help. Call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-7221. That's Angioprim at 877-882-7221. Get the facts about Angioprim. Begin living the life you want, doing the things you used to do again with Angioprim.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Steve Murillo from UPARS. 13 years in MUFON, 7 years jet pilot for the Marine Corps, graduate of the Naval Academy. Steve, do you ever get tired of hearing all of that?
Because it's ancient history, yeah.
Man,
I'm an old man now, 56 years old.
That's pretty crazy CV there. Okay, did you find it?
No, I'm looking through my history on YouTube, and I'm going through the various. I watch so much YouTube, man. I will find it, and I will send it to you.
Okay, yeah. Don't send me.
But it was where I was sitting on my living room couch watching it on the big screen here, and I just turned to my wife and I went, "What?" I couldn't believe it. I played it over again. It was that good. It was that good. So I'll send it to you.
Oh, yeah, don't send me any cat videos.
What's wrong with cat videos, man? They're cute.
Yeah. All right. So, Steve, before I let you go, I got to say, I'm just going to say it right now, Uncle Steve, tell us another story.
Oh, okay. So I mentioned Sandra Marsh, and we talked about lights in the sky. This is out in Joshua Tree, probably now 10 years ago. And I've told the story. I think I told the story on your show before, but I'll tell it again for those who are new. So Sandra used to lead these trips into the desert. Mostly she just take one or two people, but we convinced her to lead a group. And she was against it because she claimed that, when you have too many minds and if they're fearful, they kind of shut down the phenomenon. It won't manifest because it knows that somebody there is not ready to accept it. So, okay, whatever. But we convinced her, so she did. So it was a cool trip. She did spoon bending during the day. She had everybody bring an old spoon, like a silver spoon.
Yeah.
And she kind of talked us through how to bend a spoon. And sure enough, mine bent and did a loop. It was kind of crazy. And, a lot of people did. It wasn't just me. A lot of people had their spoons bend. I was like, wow, I'm manipulating. I'm fooling myself here. This is interesting. So then that night rolled around, and, we did a little meditation first, quiet the mind and all that. And then, night rolls around, and we're all staring up at the sky. And we started it whenever it got dark, and we kept going and going and going. Your neck gets tired, everybody starts fidgeting and talking, and we're trying to stay up. And it's getting cold. It's, 12 o'clock. It's, 1 o'clock. And finally, it's about 3 in the morning. And the whole while that we're standing on the top of this little hill with about 20 people around, she keeps going, they're right over there. They're parked right over there. She's pointing to this point in the sky. It's just, pitch black, a couple stars back there. There's stars everywhere, but this one area, she keeps pointing to the thing. They're right there. And everybody's sort of poo-pooing it. I've never seen it. I've never been in this sort of an environment where you're calling them in, right? So sure enough, at about 3 o'clock in the morning, this guy goes, right next to me goes, oh, I got a flash. And I go, what? And then he was facing one way, I was facing the other, and he goes, I got a flash. I turn around, I looked at him, I go, what do you mean? He goes, he had one of those little LED flashlights in his thumb, right? And he's clicking me. And he goes, it flashed me. And he flashes it again, and then this little star that's up there flashes and turns off.
Once? Flashes once?
It flashed once. He flashed once, it flashed once, and went off.
Right.
And it's like it looks to be the distance of a star. And I go, give it 2. So he gives it 2. And the thing comes back with 2. And I go, give it 3. So he gives it 3, and the thing comes back with 3. And it's now everybody, by that time, everybody's sort of turned and looking, and everybody's like, whoa, making noise. And as soon as that happens, after the 3, the light goes from being a little point star to just the brightest light. It just starts expanding, getting huge and bright. And everybody's all of a sudden getting kind of excited, a little bit panicked, and the noise level goes up 10 times, right? Everybody's like, woo, cheering and stuff,
Well, yeah, you might have just pissed him off, number one. Number two, did you grab the flashlight and go, let me try that?
No, by this time the whole event's it's taken over, right? This thing went from flashing 3 to just getting really bright, huge bright, and then everybody's screaming and stuff, and then it goes right back down, right back down to a little point of light, and we're all staring at it, and then it moves across the sky about from, let's say, just go from 0 to about 120 degrees across the sky, okay?
Wow.
So it just moves linearly across the sky, of course, pitch black, and joins up with these 2 other stars and forms a perfect triangle. Now we're looking at it and 2 others in an equilateral triangle formation. And we're looking, and then the 3 of them rotate about the middle of the triangle, rotate about the axis. And as they do that, they start to get closer together and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And then guess what, Jim? They faded to black. They literally did. They just faded out. And
I'm really jealous. I mean, and I remember, caller, stay right there. I'll bring you in a second. I remember one night, this is probably a couple of years ago, and I pulled you aside, and I said, okay, Steve, what's the one thing? What's the one story that convinced you? And that was the story you told me privately 2 years ago, and I never get tired hearing it, by the way. I mean, it gets more sensational every time, but you know what? That's between us. Let's
but it's cool because, you know, I was there. It actually happened. Now, the weird part, the follow on to that, before you get to the caller is, about a few months later, I told my wife about it and all excited. I dragged her back out there with another group and Sandra, and we had another sighting, similar, but not the same. But, you know, my wife had an experience, and she got a little scared. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black.
Hi, Jimmy. It's Eric.
Hey, Eric.
Hey, I'm enjoying the show. Steve, you're a joy to listen to. Really appreciate you being on the show tonight.
Thanks,
I got a question for you. It might be a tough question, but I'll try to make it a softball. During your time in the service, I'm assuming that you saw things or experienced things or heard things that you may not want to speak about publicly. Would you say that's true for a lot of people in the service? And the reason why I bring this up is, you know, I'm sure you've read there's a lot of reports about mind control programming and things of that nature that go on, you know, in black op programs in certain service areas. And I'm just wondering if that could possibly be tied into the Kyle Odum situation.
You know, I guess that's a possibility, but Eric, you know, I went through the Naval Academy and, you know, then basic school at the Marine Corps and at Quantico. Never in any of that indoctrination, let's call it, or training, did I ever encounter PSYOP type technology, or was it ever even mentioned? So if that sort of programming goes on to my memory and knowledge, I never encountered it. You know, I've heard a lot of stories of, you know, like, you know, I've heard some crazy stories about all military this and all military go through that, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case. For the most part, you know, for the most part, it's not mundane work. You know, it's defending our country, and it's usually dealing with technology, high technology, or, you know, or medium technology, but I've never encountered anything like that. Did it exist? Yeah, that technology exists and did exist at the time. Did I ever have to learn how to use it, or was it ever used on me? I don't believe so. I don't think so.
Thank you for the phone. Right. Thank you for the phone call, Eric.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Jimmy. We'll talk to you guys later. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Eric. Thank you, man.
Hi, you're live on Fade to Black.
Hey, it's John, the big Queen fan. I haven't called in a while, but I was just listening to the show, and I just wanted to say excellent show. I had a couple of questions. The first question is, what is some of the insight regarding like the air traffic controllers? Because I talked on and off, and they said that they had secret little codes for, you know, for unidentified sightings and things like that, you know, of those nature. And the second question that I have is more for Jimmy, and I was just wondering if there was any more contest tickets for being able to go to Contact in the Desert. So I had to throw that in there.
Okay, what you want to do for that, John, is the best way to do that is go and enter our contest. Okay. I believe if you go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on, I think there's a contest banner there. Click on that, enter your information, and that's your best shot. The other thing is probably like we did last year and the year before, I'll give away some tickets on the air and then call in on a specific night. But, you know, I get those passes from Contact in the Desert, so but you know what I mean, in advance, and then I'll announce it, and then you know, I try to be fair to everybody. Do you want to go to Contact in the Desert?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I wanted to go last year, but I just couldn't get the time off. But this year, I had everything lined up, and
okay, all right, all right. So
You're going.
Yeah. First thing that you want to do is go and enter on our website. I believe there's something there, and and so all right, we'll make it happen, John.
Right.
Okay, I can't fix this system. I can't. But if you want to go, you have a means to go. We'll make sure you go. Okay.
All right, I appreciate it. And then, of course, I'm just with the other question. I'll just take that off the air just to listen to you in regards to the air traffic control and like their little system.
Yeah, I got it written down right here. Thank you so much, John. Have a great night.
You too. Have a great night. Bye.
Yeah. So obviously, Steve, and I know. Air traffic controllers are using code words for when it comes to this because they're not going to say UFO over the air. It ain't going to happen.
Right.
What do they say?
Right.
Santa Claus, like they did with Apollo?
Santa Claus. Yeah, honestly, that was so far out of my my lexicon. I never even I never paid attention to that sort of thing. Meaning, I never thought they existed. Never even crossed my mind that UFOs existed. So it wasn't something I paid attention to. So in other words, did they brief us and say if you ever see a UFO, call it this? Never did. Never even brought it up. They never even brought. Now I'm the Marine Corps. Keep in mind, I'm the Marine Corps branch of the Navy, very small, service as they go. But I bet you the Air Force guys, I bet you they had that because they were, they were more read into that sort of technology. I mean, think about that training manual you talked about, Air Force Academy training manual. So they probably did have some sort of code. But we would have laughed about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Steve. Okay. So you're cruising along. You're in your A6 or whatever you're doing, and
A4 Skyhawk, dude.
A4 Skyhawk, and there it is, right? You see something off, at your 10 o'clock, right? And it's there, and it's let's just call it a flying saucer, right? A flying saucer, silver disc.
I'd probably just call it unidentified, off whatever, distance, and then, ask for some instructions. And I'd probably have a wingman with me, and I'd probably confirm it with him. But you see that? Yeah, I see that. What the hell is it? I don't know. Let's go chase it. You know what I mean?
Really?
That's probably what we would do.
Okay. All right. Hey, Steve.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Thank you, man. Hey, what's going on this month over at UPARS? What's next up?
Okay. So UPARS, on the 19th, we have a gentleman coming to talk about Fukushima.
Oh, really?
Now, this is it's a big departure from our normal, UFOs and all that. But I thought it was an important message because, Fukushima is still going on. I mean, you've got they're in meltdown, and nobody talks about that. And all that stuff is going out in the Pacific, and it's going into the food chain, and it ends up on your table, served fresh for dinner. So I think people need to know about that and the repercussions of it. It's interesting that it all goes back to this whole thing about who's controlling the media, who controls the message, and it's not your government, quote unquote, that controls all that. But anyway, so a gentleman's going to come talk about Fukushima, and we're going to hear him out and hear what he has to say. And then at Contact, guess what? I'm going to be probably talking about a subject you don't like to hear about, which is chemtrails. Geoengineering, man. I'm going to probably end up putting a presentation together about geoengineering. Now, what does that have to do with ufology and all that? It's, again, back to this thing about who's controlling the information.
Right.
But I think it's something that affects us all. You're seeing a lot more people getting sick. Now they're even coming out in public and calling it chemtrail flu. People are coming in. Who was it died last week on Thursday? Country's Hank Williams, right?
Yeah.
And he died of pneumonia. But he had three bugs in his system, I think.
Yep.
So, and I'm not saying he died of chemtrails, but people are dying of respiratory illness, and it seems to be the the incidence of it seems to be going up. So,
and I think
anyway.
I think you're on my panel too.
Oh, am I on your panel? Okay, cool.
Oh, you don't want to do it? You don't want to do it?
No, no. That's the whole reason I was going to contact was to be on your panel, and then they asked if I could talk.
Okay.
I said, well, of course, but as long as I can be on Jimmy's panel.
Okay, because I'll get Miss Stretta on that panel faster than you can blink. Hey, Steve.
If you get me and Alex on the panel, and then I'll just like lob him some bombs, man.
Oh,
he hates
man.
it when I do that.
You know what? We might have to pull that off. Thank you so much.
That'd be hilarious. My pleasure. Thank you for having me on your show. I loved it. I always love coming on Fade to Black, and you're the best. You're the best. Ufology and whatnot talk show out there. I think, my opinion. But I love it. So keep up the good work, and love to hear you on Coast to Coast too, by the way.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. Check's in the mail. I appreciate it. Thank you for all you do.
All right, buddy.
Oh, you got it. Thank you so much.
Take care, man. Bye, listeners. Take care. See you.
Steve Murillo, UPARS. And if you live in Southern California, once a month, and I think it's the third Tuesday of every month. That's what it is. Third Tuesday of every month, they get together and have the most kick-ass meetings. And usually, I mean, it's always a great speaker, but usually 100, 150 people show up. Great evening, great people, great place to go and talk. The thing is about Steve Murillo, and I'm going to do this little wrap-up. The thing is about Steve that I appreciate so much is, wait a minute. What? Steve.
Jimmy, man, sorry to hang up on you. You were saying something.
No, I hung up on you.
Oh, okay.
I was like, Steve's calling back.
You don't hang up on me. I hang up on you.
No. See, no, and I was just talking about you, and I thought, okay, Steve's calling back because I'm being too nice. And there you go. Steve, get out of here, man. Go spend some time with Pat. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Talk to you. Bye. See, yeah, I did. I hung up on him. And the thing is about Steve is he is all of that. Yes, he was a fighter pilot, Naval Academy, and a professional, worked for TRW. And he saw what he saw, and that is it. He's a great spokesperson, very intelligent for our community. And if you ever get a chance to go and hang out, go and do it. Now, I've got a little Kyle Odum update. If you're wondering if Kyle Odum is allowed visitors at Virginia's Northern Neck Regional Jail, well, their website, there is now no record of him there as of 2 p.m. Pacific today. One of our producers, Renee, called the jail today at 2:15 p.m. Pacific. Yes, really, and was told by an officer that Kyle Odum was transferred out of the jail today. But he was not told where Odum was transferred to. So I guess if we want to find out if Odum is allowed visitors, we need to start looking for him in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where a judge there ordered he be extradited back to face charges. We'll be looking or calling there next. That's why you count on Fade to Black. Check this out really quick. I got to share this with you. This is the real deal. Gilligan's Island for real, for shizzle. 3 sailors who were stranded on a remote Pacific island after their boat was hit by waves were rescued by the United States Navy when they spelled the word help on the beach using palm fronds. I'm not making this up. And the pictures are incredible. The men, listen to this. The men had set off on a 3-hour, I'm not making this up, on a 3-hour sailing trip from Pulop on Monday and were headed to Weno Island. but their boat capsized and they were forced to spend a night swimming to the island of Fanadic. The U.S. Navy plane was dispatched when they were reported missing. The sailors were spotted waving brightly colored life jackets next to the help sign 3 days after they became stranded on the island. They were adrift. Oh, by the way, this is the Monday 41 days ago. They were adrift in the Pacific for 41 days until the men washed ashore 600 miles from where they had departed. They survived by eating coconuts that washed past by their boat. Now, it turns out FBI Director James Comey covers his laptop camera with tape. Yeah, just like any NSA-fearing citizen should. The FBI chief confessed to keeping his camera covered while at Kenyon College in Ohio in a speech on encryption and privacy, and he said it all last Wednesday. Comey revealed, and again, I hate to say it, I'm not making this up. Comey revealed that he had learned about camera tape on your laptop on the news. And that's where he got the idea from. And I just got to say, wait a minute. Didn't he argue that absolute privacy hinders law enforcement? Wasn't that his speech? Remember that? Well, I guess I could be wrong here. But Comey's desire not to be watched through a webcam kind of suggests otherwise. And you can't have it both ways. But when the FBI director has got tape on his laptop camera because he doesn't want somebody out there snooping on him and he knows it can be done and he's afraid of it, then there's an issue there, isn't there? NASA is using a spacecraft called the Near-Earth Object Wide Field Survey Explorer, otherwise known as NEOWISE. That's right. They use it to track near-Earth objects, asteroids, comets, and so forth, that could possibly hit planet Earth. NEOWISE has discovered 72 new NEOs since 2013. The tally includes 8 objects that are classified as potentially hazardous. Yes, asteroids that could one day hit Earth. 8 of them. NASA says no government agency, national or international, has been asked or accepted the responsibility to stop such an asteroid. The space agency is working on a mission to, quote unquote, redirect an asteroid if it threatens Earth. But, and are you ready? That mission won't be ready until the mid-2020s. That's insanity. Now, really quick. People in France, Germany, and Italy are now more concerned about sealing their own borders than enjoying the ability to move freely around the continent, which was a founding principle for European integration. A poll carried out by France's Institute for Opinion Research shows overwhelmingly that Europeans would like to see the border idea scrapped and border controls reestablished between neighboring countries. Support for this move was highest in France, with 72% wanting the borders sealed. In Germany, 66% want to reestablish border controls, and 60% of Italians say they want the borders closed down. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you to Steve Murillo. He is absolutely the very best. Thank you to everybody that called in tonight. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark T. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, Jonas, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fadey by Dale. Webmaster is Drew, the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA The Planet. Thank you to everyone who called in tonight. Thank you to Steve Murillo. Tomorrow night, Dr. Stephen Greer, right here on Fade to Black. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.